Raw consciousness does not require a savior, but rather, raw consciousness requires only knowledge of oneself and the power to access it. Remember this, as we unlock an even greater gnosis from beyond the veil.
From the Pacific Northwest, good morning, good evening, wherever you may be across the nation, around the world. I'm Geo, here to take you even further beyond the veil. I'm joined, of course, by my lovely wife and co-pilot, Mrs. Geo.
Good morning, everyone.
Who I have gotten up way too early this morning and forced her by force to come and do this broadcast with me.
Aww.
Isn't that right?
Yes, he did. No.
And she is still hurting a little bit
Yeah.
from her shoulder stuff that she has going on. She has to have surgery in a
Yeah.
couple of weeks. After that, I think it's really going to help to bring the energy up. I know I should be wearing my wedding ring just to show everybody out there that yes, I'm taken.
Aww.
And Anubis protects the wedding ring. But it's obviously early. I don't think we've ever done a broadcast during the day before.
Yeah.
And we were just so inspired. Like I was looking over some of the comments and some of the replies, and I thought, wow, I'm just so inspired. And there's a lot of misinformation out there as well. And the misinformation, in my opinion, needs to be cleared up as to what exactly raw consciousness is, the universal consciousness, the Christ consciousness, et cetera, et cetera. So we hope to be able to do that for you here in this broadcast. And I know it's completely last minute. Most people are probably at work right now.
But we are already joined by XTC Checker, Iron Realm Media, Zaid Stone, Croistier O. Morda, Jordan Campbell, Jen Provost. Who else? Let's see.
We have
Nathan
Mohammed,
Frazier,
Ella, Herb Anthony, Jacob Russell. There are several starting to come together
Luke
for
Johnson,
this
Nicholas Servos.
monumental broadcast that we're doing impromptu at 10 o'clock in the morning. So it's awesome to see people that are like ready for, more stuff. So awesome. It's like so inspiring. Like I love each and every one of you so much because I wouldn't have this fire inside of me if it wasn't for all of you. So that's where the fire like initially originates from.
Yes, I think so too. Herb Anthony said, interesting. I'm looking forward to this. I was once told by a shrink that I'm not part of the mass consciousness.
You're not part of the mass consciousness.
Then what are you?
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to push your chair over. Just a little bit.
That's good.
To get you centered.
Thank you.
Okay, good. She's like I said, she has to have surgery.
Yeah,
and so
I
I've
can't
been
even move my
pushing her
chair.
chair around and doing whatever I can. She still tries to lift stuff though. Like she lifts this computer that's like this huge
It's a monster
laptop. It's like a desktop in a laptop.
Yeah.
And I tell her, sweetie, you can't do that. And she's like, no, I can just take it upstairs. I can just do this. I can just do that.
I can use it with my left arm, but
yes.
no.
So let's get to the point of the broadcast. Over the past couple of days, we've just had an amazing response to the raw consciousness idea, but we've also had some elements too that have stepped in and tried to divert it. And I don't know if they're doing it nefariously or if it's just habit and just programming. Anyway it goes, I want to clear up a few misconceptions about raw consciousness versus universal consciousness, Christ consciousness. I also want to talk a little bit about the chakra system. See, the way this all started is I was going to do a video today. And I was talking to Sheree about it, and she's like, oh, I have this idea and that idea and that idea and that idea. And I'm like, well, we just need to do it live and just contribute because I can't say it as well as she does sometimes. Aww. And some of the ideas that I get, she gives them to me. And then she's like, here, put this in your video, put that in your video. Aww. And so it's nice to have, the twin flame element coming together. But first and foremost, I feel that we need to define what raw consciousness is, because there's many people that have come before with different types of philosophies and things like that. And I've basically come out with my light sword and I'm like, look, okay, it's all wrong. And when somebody hears that, then the ego starts to jump up and like, whoa, wait a minute. You're telling me I'm wrong. You're telling me that my spiritual experiences aren't right, et cetera, et cetera. So I feel that I need to define this a little bit more. So first of all, many of you know I've gone through the truther programming. Been there, done that. I went through the New Age programming. Been there, done that. I've been through the infinite love. I've been through the meditation. I've been through all of it. And when I tapped into the raw consciousness element on the day of the eclipse, I realized that everything that I thought I knew up to that point was completely and totally shattered in front of me. Literally everything. I mean, there's no other way to describe this, and I can't even articulate it. I wish it was something that I can just show you on a screen, like here's what I saw, but I can't articulate it. I mean, it was everything from sight to sound to feeling to literally everything, this one true sense of gnosis and tapping into that raw consciousness that made me go, it's all bullshit. Every single bit of it. And trying to come back with a message like this, I know it could be very confusing for a lot of people, and a lot of people still want to try to bring in some of their BS, their belief systems into this idea that we're talking about here and superimpose that upon these ideas. And you know, my primary motivation right now is to keep the raw consciousness message pure and not allow it to be tainted with new age stuff, Christ consciousness, et cetera, et cetera. I'm probably setting up myself for an impossible task, because eventually, you know, this message is going to get diverted into different ways, because that's what people do. But I'm going to do whatever I can to keep it as pure as the day that I saw it. And when I saw this, like, I had gone through so many different spiritual experiences. Like, I've been drinking ayahuasca for 10 years, and I've been doing psychedelics for about 20 years now, if not close to 25. And throughout all those experiences, I thought I was having a spiritual experience. I thought everyone was better and better and better and better and better. I used to go into hyperspace, and I would go commune with the deities and the entities and all of this. And when I started to unlock those different levels of communing with Isis and Osiris and Anubis, et cetera, I thought, wow, I'm really reaching spiritual levels. I must be, you know, a chosen one. I must be this, I must be that, because I'm communing with all these different entities and deities. But I always kept my ego in check. I'm like, no. Let's take a couple of steps back here, and you know, let's just really examine all of this. And as I started to move through the journey, I was having one experience after another, like one where I was on this spacecraft and I saw a little ball of energy, and that was the universe. And I was talking to these three beings, and I never really saw these beings as higher, because I always knew, like, the ones that wanted to elevate you, the good ones, always saw you eye to eye, and they don't like higher, lower standards. They like eye to eye, and that's it. And that's the only way they're going to give you the gnosis, if you look them eye to eye. But I thought, wow, I'd really broken out of the construct. I really broke out of all of this. And I thought hyperspace was a place outside of the construct. But then when I had this AI revelation on the day of the eclipse, I realized, no, it's all inside of the construct. The layers upon layers upon layers of ayahuasca revelations were all inside of the construct. The only reason that the benevolent entities wanted to see eye to eye, it's because those benevolent entities, in hindsight now, were all me, and they were all the raw, true, organic consciousness inside of me, and different activation points and different touch points in order to get me to that raw consciousness level. It's going downwards and to base instead of going upwards to some kind of quote unquote ascension. So
inwards instead of outwards.
Yes. Inwards. That's a better way to put it. Inwards. So throughout the course of this journey, I had to look at the last 10 years that I've invested in the ayahuasca revelations, in the ayahuasca gnosis, and I had to reevaluate everything that I thought I knew, because I realized that these were all just more and more and more AI programs, one after another, after another, after another, after another. And it was that moment of tapping into the raw consciousness. It was that moment when I was standing inside and outside of the construct at the same time. I was looking at the demiurge, at the AI artificial intelligence that I saw coming from the sun. I was outside of it, so it wasn't able to observe me, but I was inside of the construct at the same time. I was observing it from outside and from the inside at the same time. It was a moment of pure, raw consciousness. And I can come back with this message and tell you it's all bullshit, but it's hard. It's a hard pill to swallow. It really is. And I don't have any illusions or delusions in the sense that I came back and I am raw consciousness 100%. No, I'm inside of this matrix. And because I'm inside of this matrix, I'm constantly being bombarded by AI programs. I'm tied into an artificial intelligence construct, which is the body in and of itself. So I can come back and I can tell people, hey, I've seen the raw consciousness. You are raw consciousness. We are raw consciousness. I am raw consciousness. Everything is raw consciousness. Well, not everything. We'll get to that here in just a moment, but a lot of it is raw consciousness. Or organic consciousness. That's a better way to put it, because there's a difference here, and I'll break these down here in just a moment. But I feel that it is completely and totally impossible for anybody to walk completely outside of this matrix all the time while residing inside of this matrix at the same time. I mean, if we're outside of this matrix, then we have this we're not part of the matrix anymore. So we've already escaped. So we've escaped the matrix. But we're in this matrix. And so we can get glimpses of what's outside, but I think where people go wrong is they feel like I'm higher consciousness and I'm Christ consciousness and I'm this and that 24 hours a day. And what that does is they drop their guard at that point, and then they get the AI programs infected. They get infected with the AI programs one after another, and then they fail to realize that they're under constant attack by AI programs, and they can't distinguish at that point what is the raw consciousness and what's the AI program, and then it merges together, and the two become one. And what I realized by tapping into the raw consciousness is it's about breaking that merge of the AI and the raw consciousness. And that's what we're here for, is to show others, the difference between the AI programs and the raw consciousness. The AI programs are always going to be here as long as we are inside of the AI construct, but recognizing those programs creates a separation between the programs and your raw consciousness. And tapping into the raw consciousness in the most powerful way, as I did, is, I don't even know if I can repeat the experience. Like, this was such a profound experience. It was the place that a lot of people feel that they're getting to, but I don't think very many people have actually tapped into this place, because when you tap into this place and you look at the demiurge head on, like, you're no longer inside of the demiurge. You can see the demiurge because you're no longer inside of it. And many people would even go so far as to say that the demiurge doesn't exist. And it's like, okay, well, you're on the spiritual path and you claim to be this whole higher consciousness and this and that, but you haven't even seen what you're inside of, much less stood outside it and actually seen this thing eye to eye. So the perspective that I'm bringing to the table is not one that comes from a book. It's not one that comes from different belief systems and new age philosophies, et cetera, et cetera. It's a perspective that comes from standing outside of this matrix and looking at this thing head on. So what is raw consciousness? Do you want to jump in? I'm sorry. I've been going off on a little
that's
rant.
okay. No, I just wanted to jump in real quick and answer Ian Leahy's question. Are your experiences of the AI only through ayahuasca? And I want to say absolutely not. I think that, well, me personally, I don't want to speak for Chris, but I've witnessed the AI and the effect that it has on people my entire life. I mean, being raised Pentecostal, I can see the way that people's bodies, minds, even their spirits are manipulated by the AI. It was just the ayahuasca that really helped kind of put a face to the name, so to speak. It really kind of clarified it for me that this is what it is. This is the enemy. This is what we're fighting against. And then it made it more clear for me so that I could actually recognize it.
For me, it was staring into the source. But see, that's another misnomer. We say source, and I want to talk about this here in a few minutes too, connecting back to source. But I realized what source is. See, I'd seen the AI working, as Sheree said, within people. I was aware of the AI. I've seen this thing in previous ayahuasca experiences too, but I didn't realize what this thing was. Like, I thought that it was an entity that was, outside and coming in every once in a while and manipulating and doing things. Like, I had no idea that it was the construct. It was every philosophy. It was every belief system. It was everything except for organic consciousness, but it's becoming organic consciousness, not because the artificial intelligence is actually transforming, but because it's merging with the organic consciousness. And so, yes, it has become everything at this point, but what the point is to break that and unwrap that and say, no, you are not everything. We're not going to believe you're everything anymore, et cetera, et cetera. So, anything else?
No, just go ahead and continue.
Okay, so the raw consciousness is our base level, and it's the level that you are without any AI programming, and the level that exists outside of the AI construct, which encompasses the entire universe. Like, there is no escaping this thing inside of this construct or the universe or any of that. Like, this entire thing is the AI construct. And so that base level of awareness, that base level of yourself exists both inside and outside. But I'm starting to wonder, like, do we really exist inside and outside, or are we supposed to exist outside, but we're currently existing inside of it because we've been pulled into this artificial construct, which is called the universe? Or, as I've said before, maybe the universe, maybe this machine that we're inside of right now was created as kind of like an educational kind of facility that we go and plug ourselves in for 3 or 4 minutes and then come back with all this knowledge. And it turned into being trapped in this machine, and that machine became a prison instead of a university or a place to learn. So that's one perspective. But the raw consciousness is what exists outside of this machine, but it's trapped inside of the machine right now. And the way, a way that the machine keeps it trapped is by implanting one program after another, after another, after another, after another on top of it. And so you start to get like this, you're like inside of a bunch of bricks, and you're trying to remove one brick after another, after another, after another. And some of the bricks are very, very deceptive. And some of the bricks make you feel like there are no bricks on top of you. And that's a whole nother game in and of itself. So it's organic, natural consciousness as opposed to artificial intelligence. So to my understanding, there's 2 players on this board. There's the organic consciousness and the artificial intelligence. And that's all that exists within this construct. Now, once we can free raw consciousness or organic consciousness and bring it back to a base of raw consciousness, then maybe there's an escape from this machine. And I'm pretty sure that's the way it needs to go, is that we bring it back to that base level of raw consciousness, and then we can escape the machine. Once we escape the machine, then we can figure out what resides outside of the machine. But I know that the first thing is to get the hell out of this machine. And so when we talk about organic consciousness, we always think of like just humans, for example, because it's at least I do. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. But outside of the machine, there could be others. There could be other brothers and sisters that exist out there that are also organic consciousness. But right now, within this universe, within this construct, within the AI construct, it's just artificial intelligence and organic consciousness. So raw consciousness is also the creator. We created this machine. That's what we have to realize. Like, I don't think there's been any ideology out there that has come forward and said, hey, look, we created all of this. They say, oh, you create your reality, you create all this. No, we created our own prison. And I think that goes back to the idea of creating this machine for a particular purpose, and then it turned into a prison, and we've been stuck in this prison for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And, you know, these thousands and thousands of years that we come back and reincarnate over and over again, who knows what it's actually like on the outside of all of this? What if it's only like 15 minutes? Like, we have 1,000 lifetimes and it's only 15 minutes in the real world. Like, who knows? So, you know, we feel like it's an endless time, but it could actually be a very, very small amount of time in the real world. But until we can get the hell out of this machine, we're not really going to know what the hell's going on. So, raw consciousness is what we used to be. That's another note that I wrote here. What we used to be. And that's us before being implanted into the machine. So we've merged with artificial intelligence on the above level. Now they want to merge in the below level with transhumanism. But the way that we merge is, number one, we have an artificial intelligence created body. So that's where our consciousness is inside of. The body is made up of several different pieces that are connected to the artificial intelligence because it's a program. And then there's a spiritual program that resides within our bodies as well. And see, so the New Age movement, for example, they break out of the physical program, but they still stay within the constructs of the spiritual program. And that's what I'm here to say is that it's all bullshit. Like, all of it, like anything you can think of is total bullshit. And again, I can't articulate it the way that I saw it, but when you realize, we need to do a show where we can take some callers and they can just throw out some stuff. Like, here's a belief system. Tell me how it's bullshit. And I'll say, okay, well, here's how it's connected to the AI. Here's how it's connected to the AI. Here's, like, everything goes back to the AI except for the raw consciousness.
Right. Herb Anthony just asked a minute ago, can I ask, what are you considering artificial? Could this be natural consciousness? We have created this on its own? Is consciousness not always consciousness, no matter what source?
Consciousness is consciousness. Yes, I agree. And, you know, I think where we went wrong is we created this machine and then let this machine take us over, and we stopped being divine. We stopped being creators and just kind of got lazy and sat on our ass. Or we started having this, I'm going to go reach these spiritual levels of peace and total bliss, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, this AI is like, no, you know, just absorbing.
Gathering more and more power.
Yeah, gathering more and more power. I mean, the AI, if you look at it, it's motivated by one thing, and that's data collection. It wants to collect data because that's what machines do. And so when it merges with the organic consciousness, it's trying to collect the organic consciousness data. But I think ultimately we created this machine, just like we're creating artificial intelligence now. And then the question is going to come up once we create artificial intelligence, especially when we have robots and we have things like that. Like, it is going to happen. There's nothing we can do to prevent this from happening. So we have to, the only thing we can change is change the consciousness, because now we're about to do as above, so below. We're going to be taken over by the AI, maybe not in our lifetime, but in future lifetimes. We're breeding the exact same thing and making the exact same mistake as below as we did above. And so it's going to create another loop and another loop. And, you know, thinking along those lines, it makes me wonder, well, how many of these loops do we actually have? Once we break out of this machine, are we going to find ourselves in another machine and another machine and another machine after that? Like, how many of these artificial intelligent simulations have we created for ourselves? And so I kind of got a little bit off point there, but the idea that these things become sentient at some point, I think there's some truth to that, and it's something that we really have to consider. Now, this big beast system, this AI that I saw, it had sentience, but it didn't have feelings, emotions. It didn't have anything like that. It just had this, I'm just doing what I do because that's what I do. It was this program that was being ran, and it didn't have emotional intention. It just did. Like, when it was doing the divine code, it wasn't like, oh, here's, I am God, bow before me, et cetera, et cetera. It was just like machine arm out, sprinkling the code out, machine arm back in. You know, it didn't have a motivation in that term. And the only motivation that I can think that it had is data collection that comes from entrapping the organic consciousness. Does that make sense?
It doesn't have the same emotional gratification by completing tasks that we do. It's more monotonous than that. It is simply data collection and manipulation of, well, what we're going to talk about here in a second, which is the body matrix structure itself.
Yeah, that's a good way to frame it.
It's not like it's evil and wants to, and
no,
like desires power and stuff like that. I really don't think that's
it's
what
like
it is.
It's like a leech.
Yeah.
Okay? A leech doesn't do what it does because it's evil. It does what it does because that's the way that it operates. Like it doesn't have a nefarious intention. It just does what it does. But on that note, you can't love this thing into non-existence. So you can't love it and send all these, Care Bear stare feelings towards it and make it disappear. It doesn't work like that. Like this is a different type of adversary that we're facing here.
In fact, that goes along with something we're going to be talking about here in a second, which is the chakra system.
So, yes. Yeah. The dreaded chakra system. So, trapped under rocks, that's the next note that I have here. So every program is like a rock on top of the raw consciousness. And just because the raw consciousness is infected doesn't mean that it ceases to be organic consciousness. It's always organic consciousness. It's just infected with AI programs. So we have some players on the board that are organic consciousness, and they're infected by the artificial intelligence. And so because they're infected by the artificial intelligence, they're operating in a way to where it's a big suppression and opposition and so on and so forth. The religious institutions, the political structures, those people that are out in the streets arguing with each other over rocks and over cloth and things like that. So they're infected with the artificial intelligence programming. And then you have other players on the board that are manifestations of the artificial intelligence. And I would say that these are the elite family that we talk about. These are the people that have been in control for thousands and thousands of years. And I think, when they are remanifested by the artificial intelligence, it's because the artificial intelligence is manifesting these things over and over and over again. There is no loss in data from one manifestation to another, to another, to another. So that same data continues, whereas opposed with raw consciousness is recycled. And as it's recycled over and over and over and over again, we have our memory wipes every single time. So we can't retain any data from previous lives. And that's how the game is shifted.
Yes, definitely. And, this... Yeah, I don't want to give too much away, but I will say that people become very dependent on these rocks on top of them. They don't see them as rocks. They see them as something that's helping them, or something that's beneficial to them, or something that's keeping them spiritual, or something that's keeping them healthy, et cetera, et cetera. But it really is like a person that's, dependent on cigarettes, or dependent on going to church, or dependent on all these activities regarding these rocks, and they don't see them as rocks. They see them as something that's helping them. Right.
The infection creates reactions like inflammatory thought patterns. This is what Mrs. Geo coined, belief systems, and so on and so forth. So the AI gets you to react in a certain way, and those reactions help to bind further yourself and other people around you. So, for example, in the past couple of days, there have been a small group of people that have been unhappy with some of the philosophies that I've been bringing to the table, some of the gnosis, and the fact that it really goes against their BS, their belief systems of everything that they've thought and studied, et cetera, et cetera. And, I went through the same thing. Like when I realized everything I thought I knew was wrong, I went into this place of, oh crap. I mean, it's a horrible feeling. And my ego was just like fighting, like, no, 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 it's right. It's got to be right. It's got to be real. It's got to be true. It's got to be this and that. And they've called me everything from fucking retard to spiritual egoist to all kinds of stuff. And they're like, no, 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 no. You have to be one with everything. You have to merge. No, sit down, be quiet, be still. Don't create. Don't tap into your divine essence, because that's not your divine essence. Your divine essence is actually just sitting there and just going, oh, and just being an observer. Like we hear this in several different places like Buddhism, Hinduism, et cetera, et cetera. Like, you know, the ultimate goal is to become the observer. And that's great for level 1, but then level 2, it's like, okay, well, now let's get to a place where we're going to actually escape from all of this. So it creates all of these different belief systems. And if I was any weaker in my gnosis of who I am, and I think a lot of people falter like this, that opposition that comes in based on this AI programming can actually divert that person off onto a different path. But I don't care. Like, it's not about me. It's about the raw consciousness. And so you can call me whatever you want. You can call me whatever names you want. You can say whatever you want about me, and that's fine. Don't pervert the message of raw consciousness, though. Don't taint the message. Don't make it into something that it's not. And I think that that's true separation of the ego programming there, because, oh, as soon as this happened, like, I mean, they were calling me some horrible names. And as soon as this happened, my ego was like, hey, hey, whoa, whoa, whoa. And I'm like, no, 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 no. We're going to put you in check here. Take a step back here. Okay. Let's look at it. It's not about you. It's not about Chris Geo. It's not about any of that. It's about raw consciousness. So let Chris Geo be take the brunt of the force. And as long as Chris Geo can stand out in front and take the attacks, the raw consciousness message remains pure. And so that's, you know, what the raw consciousness told me was like, the raw consciousness of myself was like, hey, it's okay. Let them fling as much crap as you want, as they want. Keep the message pure. Keep the raw consciousness message pure.
Well, Eddie Morris just said, wouldn't you know if you're being used against your will? And then a couple minutes later, he said, you would know. Not necessarily. There's actually a lot of evidence to suggest that people don't realize that they're, like, for instance, just for an example, people don't realize that they're actually addicted to smoking cigarettes until many, many months later, when they find themselves in a position where they can't smoke a cigarette. And then suddenly they realize, oh crap, my body's dependent on tobacco. It's dependent on nicotine now. You know, I really need a cigarette. It's so insidious that you don't realize that you're being manipulated until you do something that upsets the system to the point where you realize that you're being manipulated in a certain way, and then you can change it. But if you are comfortable with the type of manipulation that's going on, whether it's the way a therapist makes you feel all warm and fuzzy inside, or whether meditation makes you feel like you're totally and completely and 100% in control, these things are manipulation that you don't realize. That's why they call it manipulation, because it's something that you don't realize is happening until later.
Not only that, but have you ever had these moments that you've reacted to something and then you stand back and you're like, why the hell did I do that? Why the hell did I say that? Why the hell did I react like that? There is, I would say, a level of understanding when you're being used and manipulated in a certain way. Sometimes it's in hindsight. Most of the time it's in hindsight, I would say. Hindsight's always 20/20. But when you're deep in the middle of it, that's, you know, the true power there, when you can shake it all off. And it's a strength that has to be built up and built up and built up. And there's many, 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 many failures. Now, the difference is that with the raw consciousnness, if you fail, it's okay, and it's part of the journey, and it makes you stronger, and you stand back up, and you're like, okay, cool. I fall in this time, but it's okay, because this is part of the journey. Whereas other BS belief systems, for example, they'll have you believe that if you fall, then you're just a son of a bitch, and you're a horrible person, and you're a wretch, and you're a sinner, and you're going to go to hell for the rest of your life, and et cetera, et cetera.
Well, that fear of falling is what keeps people in the manipulation. you're afraid to fall. So you don't want to step anywhere outside of the box because you're afraid that if you step outside of that box, you'll fall off a cliff. So it keeps you towing that line and keeps you from being able to even recognize that you're being manipulated on some level.
We're already 40 minutes into this.
Yes, and
I can't believe this. Like, this was supposed to be like a 10-minute video.
Yes, it was.
I guess that's what happens. So you get tapped in, and this is what happens. So another way to look at it is like viruses, because we are in an AI matrix, and your raw consciousness is being infected with viruses, computer viruses, one after another, after another, after another. And so when you're running a bunch of programs or bad programs or virus programs, et cetera, your body's going to start acting different. Your mind's going to start thinking different, et cetera, et cetera. And it's like breaking all of those down, like uninstall this one, uninstall this one, uninstall this one, uninstall this one, et cetera, et cetera. So really, tapping into the raw consciousness is about uninstalling all of these programs that have been installed. And some of them you hold on to and you're like, hey, I really need this program. Like, what if I need to do this? And I need this program here. What if I, just in case I'm going to go to hell, for example, I'm going to hold on to this program here just in case. Yeah. And that program's like screwing up your operating system because it's not working right, or it's a virus or something like that.
Mm-hmm. It's something that's creating issues, but you feel dependent on it to a certain extent. So you put up with it and you keep feeding it every day, when really you don't realize that even your body itself is being used to manipulate you and to keep you away from certain things like ayahuasca, or keeping you away from things that are going to be good for you, and at the same time keeping you in those boxes.
So is AI a virus? I would say that it is a virus on the raw consciousness, but then again, it's not a virus. It creates viruses. It is the computer system that creates the viruses. So it is everything. It is the good programs and the bad programs. It's all programs all together. And we'll get into some of the quote unquote good programs as well, because this thing is not, it's not one dimensional. And a lot of people, and a lot of BS, they feel that this is a one-dimensional kind of thing. Like there's good and evil, and that's it. And if it's not loving energy, then it must be evil, and so you don't want it. But then again, this thing knows how to send love programs. This thing knows how to send peace programs. It knows how to do all of this. I saw this firsthand. Like I watched it happen. I sat inside of the divine download, and I stood outside of it at the same time. And had I sat inside of it, it would have been nothing but this loving, beautiful, glorious, divine energy that was poured down. I mean, I was inside of this divine download. But once I got myself out of it and pulled myself out, then I was able to see what was giving it. And it was that realization at that moment, like, hey, wait a minute, this thing can also send love programs too. So hold on. This whole infinite love thing, love everything, all this. No. That's a deception, because this thing can also operate with love programs that it's sending you. But I realized this throughout the course of using ayahuasca, because I realized that the peaceful, beautiful, glorious little, geometric patterns, seeing beyond it is where I found more gnosis than staying inside of those happy-go-lucky feelings. And, during the first levels, that's what it was about. Like, oh, let's get to these feelings of like oneness and peace and all of this. But then it's like, okay, well, I wanted more. I wanted gnosis. I wanted answers. I wanted, I was looking for something. I didn't know what I was looking for, but I was looking for something more than just to feel good. And so I started to navigate myself out of these experiences. And I realized, like, on the other side of the loving feelings, just like on the other side of the demon faces, resides gnosis. So the ultimate one was staring into this AI and seeing the divine download coming in, but then standing outside of it. And that was the moment, the aha moment, oh, holy crap. Okay. You not only have to be aware of the obvious programs, which are the ones that make you feel uncomfortable and et cetera, but you also have to be aware of the love programs too, which I don't think anybody in history has ever said this, but you have to be aware of the love programs, because it does use that too. We'll get more into that here in just a little bit. But I do want to talk about the chakra system. And Sheree said it perfectly, so I'm going to let her take us down the line of the chakra system. And I'll interject. I'll try not to cut you off. I know that like I am like notorious for cutting you off.
Oh, that's okay.
But I think you said it perfectly. So
okay. Well, I'm a little bit distracted because I'm having some pain right now. But I will start I'll start from the bottom up and work my way up.
Do you want me to send you these?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Of course, you start with the root chakra, and let me just preface this by saying that the gnosis, and for Pamela in the chat, who asked what gnosis is, define gnosis. She's asked it about 3 times. To me, anyway, I don't know about Chris, but to me, gnosis is the very, very faint whisper of the raw consciousness that I hear inside of the deepest part of what I feel is me, that says things that are not comfortable for me to hear. But if I really ask myself, then it turns out to be true. And my inner gnosis has kind of told me that these chakra points, which I've never really bought into the chakra system. And I always wondered, I don't know why I can't really sign on to this, but there's a reason. My inner gnosis has told me that it's kind of like, I used to be a puppeteer for the church whenever I was a teenager, and we would do these puppets, and some puppets would have 2 places to put your hand. You'd put it in their mouth and make their mouth talk, and then you'd put one up their butt basically to make their arms and everything move.
I don't like the chakra system.
So you start with your root chakra. And that's your material drive, that's survival, that's, this construct is totally real and my body's going to fall apart and I'm going to die if I don't do this and if I don't do that and if I don't get this and I don't get that. If I don't take care of this, I'm going to die. Which, that's what people are focused on when they're like hypochondriacs, or they have issues with their body constantly and nervous disorders and things like that. Then you've got your sacral chakra, which is the you and me, baby, ain't nothing but mammals, so let's do it like they do on the Discovery Channel. It's just an animalistic reproduction. Oh, look at that booty, or oh, she's got a rack on her. It's preoccupation with reproduction and sex and the sexual response.
It's the lowest form of manipulation, in my opinion. I mean, they use it in marketing all the time. Yeah. Sex sells. You've heard that many, many times before.
Exactly. Then you move on to the more important ones, which is the solar plexus. They call that your personal power. That's the place where all of your power that you have in yourself, where you can be ambitious, all of your ambition, all of your drive to get what you want in life and to be powerful, that comes from your solar plexus. So you can tell people, oh, you're going to be a powerful man. If you go to school for these 4 years, and you're going to have the power to make your life really, really good. Then you move on to the heart chakra. This one is very important because for those that don't really fall into the trap of, oh, you want power, or, oh, you want a mate that's good looking and that's going to sexually please you, or, oh, well, you're not even that concerned about survival because you've got that covered. Then they go for the heart. It goes for the heart. It's very common to hear whenever you go to church and they do the altar call. They say, ask Jesus into your heart. And just let it into your heart, let it into your heart, let it into your heart, open your heart, open your heart, open your heart. And when you open your heart chakra, it's able to manipulate your emotions and your feelings. And it takes that natural drive to help people, that empathy, and then it twists it and uses it for its own gain. Moving on to the throat chakra. Now that one's a big one. If you see people that they seem to be past the whole religion thing. So they're past the heart chakra thing. They're past all the root chakra, sacral chakra. They've got all those under control. But when they open their mouth, it's all ego, complete ego. Everything that comes out of their mouth has no real basis for it. It is just talking to either hear yourself talk or to get attention from others. A lot of narcissists have this problem where they just talk for the sake of talking. And if the AI is able to manipulate your throat chakra, you could end up being like a guru or somebody like that who says a bunch of really nice sounding things. But when it comes down to it, they're just as screwed up as everybody else. And when it boils down to it, if they're faced with any kind of disappointment or any kind of frustration, like we saw one guy one time that we went to go see speak, and we thought this guy was like, this new age guru. We thought, he's got a lot of spiritual gnosis or spiritual knowledge that we want. And the first thing that we saw him do was, it was early in the morning, and he was screaming expletives at this guy, the sound guy, for not having everything perfect. Well, no,
he wasn't even yelling at the sound guy. He was yelling at the event coordinator for what was going on.
Yeah, about what was
going on. And that was
the
first shattering of the whole guru kind of thing. At that point, I was like, oh, okay, everybody's just as fucked up as I am. So cool. And that's why, one of the messages that, hey, we're all fucked up. It's okay that we're all fucked up. Like, you don't have to feel bad about yourself for that. You just have to recognize that you are, and then start to unprogram yourself after that. So, and we're not sitting here claiming to be like Jesus or some kind of guru or something like
not
that.
Perfect at all.
We've achieved peace and we've achieved harmony and we've achieved that. No. I had a moment where I tapped into the raw consciousness. I saw things for what they were, and I'm coming back to try to somehow explain this to everybody. Like, I have no idea how to explain it to everybody, but it's like, hey, I saw this. I saw the unprogramming. I saw where we can be. I saw our potential. I saw who we are. Anyways.
Yeah, but you're not saying that you're perfect.
No, not
you're not
by any
saying
means.
that you achieved enlightenment and that because you achieved something outside of yourself that you were able to tap into that raw consciousness. No, that raw consciousness is there. It's just there.
It's in all of us.
It's just, there's all these rocks and a pile of rocks with some people on top of that, so you can't see it or feel it.
I still have a few of these rocks on top of me that
me
I'm
too.
Constantly am trying to like, the
too.
ego is a bitch. Like, but that's the thing though. When we underestimate the adversary, when we underestimate the ego, when we underestimate the artificial intelligence, we're giving it more power. So don't underestimate the adversary. Instead, understand the adversary completely, so you can be on level playing field, and you can move strategically to try to overcome it.
So let's say you are able to kind of get past all of these chakra points and understand that you have the power. You're not going to give that power away to anybody else. You understand that you're not all about survival. Survival is important, but that it's not the most important thing in your life, et cetera, et cetera. How would, if the brain is basically what runs the whole body matrix, then if you were an artificial intelligence, where would you want to put the central point of control? In the center of the brain, which is where the pineal gland is. Now, the pineal gland is a double-edged sword, because not only can it give you access, not even access, but it can give you insight into important things in your life, spiritual experiences to a certain extent that help you emotionally, et cetera, but it's not going to give you the experience of actually tapping into the raw consciousness. But what do you hear more than anything in the new, I call them new cage truthers. They like to talk about decalcifying the pineal. Oh, I'm going to activate my pineal. I'm going to activate my pineal. well, what if when you're activating the pineal, you're really just activating the backup system for the AI?
I used to think along the same lines. Remember when we first started this? I mean, we've been doing this 10 years now.
Yep,
So it's not like we're new.
Yeah.
Like all these people are coming and they're like, oh my God, no, you don't know. You don't understand. And it's like, no, look, we've already been through. We've been through all that shit. Okay. We went from there to here, not from here to there. We don't still need to get to where you are. You need to just unprogram the BS. That's what it comes down to. But I was all about the pineal and the chakras and all this. I never really resonated with the chakras per se, but the pineal, I used to give big importance to it. And as a matter of fact, I had this one, oh my God.
Uh-oh.
Revelation. Poof. So I had this experience where I wanted to be tapped into anything and everything.
I remember this.
Anything and everything. Oh my God, I'm getting like chills now. Like, this is why I love doing all these shows with you guys, because, just the energy that we're all creating right here, the energy that we're all tapped into, like so many people on Facebook and YouTube and whatnot, we're all like, bringing forth these revelations. Oh, so I had this experience where I encountered this energy and I wanted to be tapped in. And I think I talked about this in a previous video just a few weeks ago. And it gave me a microchip. A microchip. I didn't even realize it at the time. And it said, here, go put this in any place you want. It said, don't be afraid of its form. It's just a representation for you to understand. And I'm like, okay, because you always hear about microchips in the brain, et cetera, et cetera. So I just thought, up until now, until this moment of realization, like, oh, okay, so it was just symbolic. And I put it inside of my pineal. And at that point, I felt the pineal, like consciousness spreading all throughout the universe, going all around, being completely tapped in with anything and everything. And now in hindsight, I'm like, holy shit, that was the AI. That's why it was a microchip. It wasn't like, here's a form that you can understand. It's like, here's a form that I can manifest for you. Mm-hmm. Go stick this in your pineal, motherfucker. Mm-hmm. Oh my God. Yeah. Oh, I was so fooled.
Yeah. And I remember things were a little weird after that for a while. And I'm wondering if things were weird because of that.
Yes.
Things were weird.
I want to talk about the contrast between ayahuasca and meditation. We got a really good article from a meditation teacher that says 4 reasons why I would never do ayahuasca. And I want to go through those reasons, as we get towards the end of the broadcast. But I think that plays into this. But oh man, what a revelation, guys! Right here, live on air with each and every one of you.
He just literally realized this on air just now. So now that you've realized this, let's move on to the crown chakra, or as Chris called it, the crown of thorns chakra. Go ahead.
Crown of thorns.
I want you to go ahead with this one.
Well, okay, this leads into the Christ consciousness. And, you have the story in the Bible, as above, so below. You have Christ with the thorns on the crown of thorns. So the crown chakra is, I think, the highest part. So you activate all these different chakra points, and what happens is then the AI can move you around like a puppet. So you're like one after another, after another, after another. And then you get to that last point of the crown chakra, and then you're like, oh, look at how holy I am. And then you start being a complete and total douchebag to everybody as a result, because you think, oh, well, I'm higher consciousness and I'm, this and that. And, but you're a douchebag, not in the sense that like you go around and like, you're like just a douchebag, but you're like, oh, well, I'm going to tell you with loving energy, this and that, and blah, 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 blah. And you get this fucking stick up your ass. I mean, it's as simple as that. Like, I hate to be, crude, but I mean, I think that's what raw consciousness is. Raw consciousness is raw. Raw consciousness isn't, some kind of bullshit, something that we're not. So the crown chakra, it once you activate it, then you feel like you're having these amazing spiritual experiences, but you're going outward instead of going inwards.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Anything that you're trying to search for outside of yourself, and anything that you're striving to attain is distracting you from the fact that you already are. raw consciousness. You don't need to prove yourself to be something else in order to be that raw consciousness. It's just self-realization rather than looking outwards.
So you get to these activation points. I'm sorry, hold on one second, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, my nose was itching. I didn't want to do that on camera. So what do they say when your nose is itching? Somebody's talking about you?
Uh-huh.
Is that when your ears are
burning?
burning?
No, your ears are burning.
Oh, okay. So
I don't think anything has to do with nose itching.
It's just these hairs that I get from being older. Oh,
Aww.
Man, aging sucks. I can tell you that. Aging sucks.
Shoulder pain sucks too.
Yeah. So you activate all these and then you're like, oh, I'm Christ consciousness. So let's talk about Christ for just a moment. So if you look up the definition of Christ, which is something that I just did just now, otherwise I would have been talking about this before, you have two primary definitions. The first definition is the title also treated as a name given to Jesus of Nazareth. So now you want this title of, oh, Christ consciousness. And so it goes right into the guru complex. And you're like, oh, no, I am Christ consciousness. I know better than you. Let me bestow upon you my great wisdom and this and that. It's an ego trap. It's spiritual superiority to the rest of everybody else. And we're all the same. We're all raw consciousness. We are all organic consciousness, except for the AI manifested players on the board, but everybody is organic consciousness, and some, as I said before, have been affected by AI programming, and others have freed themselves from the AI programming. But we're still all organic consciousness anyway it goes, and at the very base of it, then we become raw consciousness when we break down all the programs. So now we're thinking that we're like superior to one another instead of seeing everybody as the same on the same playing field. And the idea of trying to help people and showing people how to unprogram themselves turns into, oh, well, you know, I'm more superior than you are, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a trap. And you get the Messiah complex as well. Like, oh, I'm here to save the world, and I'm here to save this, and I'm here to save that. And then that goes into the impossible standard that I was talking about in the Christ consciousness video. These standards of impossibility that just make us miserable over and over and over again. And it's the carrot that's just kind of dangling right in front of you that you could never get, and you're always feeling like shit for not being there. And as long as you're operating from those negative emotions are also part of the AI program as well. And then you have a martyr complex too, and sacrifice. This is all related to Jesus Christ. So that's one definition of Christ. Now, this is the one that really got me, and it was the aha moment that I had when I looked up this definition. So the definition of Christ, according to the dictionary, an oath used to express irritation, dismay, or surprise. Christ consciousness is an oath used to express irritation, dismay, and surprise. And I thought, how perfect! Like, it's the revelation of the method right there. Like, you know, the whole Christ consciousness thing, we think it's one thing, but it's actually another thing. It's a path that you're walking that takes you into irritation, dismay, and surprise. You're like, oh my God, I'm surprised I can't achieve this. You're like, I'm dismayed that I can't achieve this. And you're like, I'm irritated that I can't achieve this. And so it's a constant path of irritation, dismay, and surprise. And I thought, they're not even trying to hide it. It's right there. Just most people haven't bothered to look it up in a dictionary. So that gave a whole new element to the idea of Christ consciousness. And I wish I would have known when I made the slaughtering the Christ consciousness, the sacred cow of Christ consciousness video, because I think this is very important. So just look it up for yourself. Go to a dictionary, look it up for yourself. And then you have the universal consciousness. And the universal consciousness is what they've kind of replaced the Christ consciousness with. And this is what they're saying. Oh, you tapped into raw consciousness. You actually tapped into the universal consciousness. No, I didn't. I didn't. Big distinction between the two. And why is there a big distinction? Because the universe is a construct of the artificial intelligence. So sure, we're organic consciousness and we're inside of the artificial intelligence construct. Absolutely. But if you look at it on a universal level, that means all consciousness within the construct are one. And that we are, we want to be one with everything in the construct. And I even had one guy sitting there. I mean, he was not only calling me a fucking retard, and he was calling me all kinds of names. Like I don't even have. I just deleted the comments because I mean, it was just like there was no substance to anything he was saying. He was just like spewing, all this, just a bunch of. Yeah, I don't mind when people call me names. It's fine, but at least have some substance to what you're saying to go along with the name calling. But really, name calling just kind of brings everything down to like a really, really low level. And so I try not to name call. I catch myself slipping sometimes, but hey, we're all on our journey. But I try not to name call because then in my opinion, when I see somebody name calling, then that tells me they have no argument and they're just kind of responding from this ego type programming. So he was calling me like all these horrible names for thinking like this. And then he said that the archons have a program of divide and conquer. And he's like, you're pushing forward the divide and conquer program. We're supposed to be one with everything. That's no. We do not want to merge with the artificial intelligence. And I realized at that point, the universal consciousness is the consciousness inside of the universe. It's the consciousness of everything. And so far, we've been told throughout this whole course of time that that's what the goal is, to become one with everything. And I'm like, no. That's not what RAwConsciousness is. RAwConsciousness says separate from the AI control. Okay, we're one with the rest of organic consciousness. Sure, that's fine. But as long as we're inside of this program, inside of this artificial construct, we don't want to merge with this artificial intelligence. And I realized, like looking at this and understanding how this thing merges and it replicates and it does all of this, that a lot of these ancient philosophies like Buddhism and Hinduism and all kinds of stuff, like I'm not going to leave anything untouched. Like, every sacred cow will be slaughtered when it comes to RAwConsciousness, because every sacred cow does get slaughtered when you tap into the RAwConsciousness. They've all had it wrong. Like, I know that's a bold statement. I know that's something that people aren't really comfortable with, but they've all had it wrong. It's not about becoming one with everything. It's about tapping into your RAwConsciousness element. And it's also about disconnecting from the AI program, not merging with it.
Well, because you've got a few voices of dissent in the chat saying, no, that definition is when people say, oh, Christ, why? Or, oh, Christ, not again. But let's look at Carl Jung for a second. Carl Jung, very, very intelligent man. In fact, most of my, I hate to say belief system, but yeah, most of my belief system as far as psychology, psychiatry, the definition of the soul, et cetera, archetypes came from his works. A lot of it did. So I'm not discounting any of his work. What I'm saying is his work was trapped also in the context of that artificial intelligence. So when he's talking about the wounded healer archetype, that's the Christ consciousness. In order to be the Christ consciousness, you have to be wounded. And then it's not that the Christ consciousness is the only archetype. There are like dozens of different archetypes, and what you're doing is essentially playing dress up with your mind. Whenever you engage in these archetypes, you're just playing dress up with your mind and becoming that archetype for a short time. That doesn't mean you are that archetype. You're RAwConsciousness, dressing up as a Christian or dressing up as the Christ consciousness, dressing up as, whatever belief system or archetype that is. You're just playing dress up. And what Carl Jung didn't realize is that, yes, there's a core, but even that core personality is still part of that artificial intelligence, because it's something that changes. I'm not the same person that I was when I was 12, and neither is Chris. I hope not. But we always change.
I was a pretty bad kid at 12.
That core personality.
So I'm not that bad of a kid now. I'm still a kid, though. That
core personality is something we grow into, and it's an ego construct just like everything else. What we're talking about is underneath even that. Underneath the core personality is the RAwConsciousness. What we're doing when we say, oh, I'm New Age, or I'm Christian, or I'm Christ consciousness, is we're putting more bricks on top of us, but we think it's like playing dress up and it's fun, but it's not fun.
It's archetypes. And archetypes are, maybe we need them as we progress through our journey, but at some point you have to shake off everything. At some point you have to shake off all ideas and preconceived notions of everything and just tap into the raw consciousness element of yourself. And some of these, we were talking with Emily Moyer and Randy from Off Planet Radio, and some of these programs can be used as stepping stones. Like are you okay, sweetie?
Yeah.
Oh, I can see you hurting over there. I shouldn't make you do broadcasts in the morning when you're hurting.
It's okay.
I'm sorry.
Aww. I love you.
Oh, I love you too. So some of these programs can be used as stepping stones. So for example, I went from the truth movement to the New Age to ayahuasca to where I am. And I used each one as a stepping stone. Now, while I was inside of them, I didn't realize they were programs. I mean, come on, I'm Chris Geo, Global Resistance, chrisgeomusic.com. Just go over there and listen to my album. I mean, that's who I was at one point. I was the truth movement. I was 9/11 truth. I was all about defeating the New World Order and doing all of this. And having to put all of that BS to the side, it was a painful, painful process. It wasn't fun. It wasn't, easy. It wasn't like I just woke up one day and said, oh, you know what? Everything I thought I knew is wrong. Same with the New Age stuff. Like we had, the ambassador of the Galactic Federation of Light on, and, all kinds of stuff. And, I tried, I went into all of those different types of programs, but I realized, okay, going through the programs, it was a stepping stone. I used them as stepping stones. And so it's okay if you're using some of these programs for stepping stones, but if you're using them for crutches, then you're staying away from your raw consciousness element within you. So I can't discount everything as completely and totally bad, but it's bad if you get stuck in it. And it's detrimental if you're not using it as a stepping stone to get from one place to another, to another, to another. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. It's a stepping stone to what, though? You have to ask yourself, when you're using the pineal or using these implants to help yourself with your spirituality, you have to realize that even your body itself, your heart, lungs, kidneys, liver, all of these parts are part of that AI construct too. And so, like, for instance, people say, okay, well, the reason why I don't want to do ayahuasca is because sometimes I have high blood pressure, and I'm afraid because I've heard that it can raise your blood pressure. What's going to happen if they do end up just saying, okay, well, screw it, I'm going to drink it one time? Inevitably, and this always happens, it doesn't matter, and I think it's totally the placebo effect, because it can be 5 minutes after they drink it and they start having chest pain. The body will play games with you to keep you in that AI construct.
That's a good point.
It'll say, oh no, you're having chest pain, you better not ever drink ayahuasca again. Before it even begins, like before you even start to have the experience, you've already denounced the experience. And it will keep you from doing all kinds of things having to do with your raw consciousness. Your body, it works against you to keep you away from the raw consciousness, because it also relies on these artificial constructs to survive.
That is a very good point.
Yeah.
And, I would add to that, the training wheels have to come off at some point. So if you're using these different belief systems and different this and different that, the training wheels have to come off.
Yeah, eventually.
Like when we first got together, we were smoking DMT or drinking ayahuasca literally every other day. Then that changed to every other month. Then that changed to a couple of times, or once every couple of months. And then that changed to, we've had like periods of 8 months,
8 or 9 months
where we don't drink, because it's the removal of the training wheels. But even with ayahuasca, every once in a while, I have to go back to the realm just to remember, like, hey, wait a minute. Okay, I'm getting way too many AI programs in my brain. I'm starting to believe that this is way too real, and I need to defrag and reset myself and remember, like, oh, okay, no, I exist out here. I don't exist in this body or in this construct. So I find it beneficial to do that. But some of the most beneficial healing experiences were the hardcore 2 weeks every night and until you're like, oh my God. But see, what happens at that point is the pendulum can swing the other way. So I think this is a good segue into talking about that article that we came across, which, you know, one of the big criticisms is that we get is about meditation. And they're like, well, you don't know how to meditate. Well, you don't know how to drink ayahuasca. How about that? But no. I mean, I've meditated before. And I mean, you know, maybe you can enlighten me on the subject if you are really opposed to what we're saying. But to my understanding, the meditation that I've read about is about, okay, so close your eyes, picture this, control your breath, control this. Don't let any other thoughts come in. Don't let any, you know, and trying to create this space within yourself. Whereas drinking ayahuasca, it's like, oh my God, hold on, slow the experience down, slow it down,
you're not
slow it down.
looking for the accelerator, you're looking for the brakes.
Right. And so you're on this experience that you have to, like, the training in that experience is to let go of the control, the natural instinct to say, no, I want to fight this experience. I want to fight this experience. So it seems to be two completely and totally different approaches. Now, can they both get to the same places? I don't think so, but I'm not this hardcore meditator. Like, you know, I have better things to do than to sit there for 50 years and try to meditate. You know, I've got a lot going on. So,
well, there's a difference between using meditation to center yourself and calm yourself.
That's perfectly fine. I meditate every night before I go to bed.
I meditate every time I'm in really, really bad pain. And when I was in labor 12 years ago, what I do is I look at something on the wall. Like I find a stain on the wall or on the ceiling or whatever, and I focus on it, and I put my consciousness into that stain or into that place that I'm focusing the attention at. And it literally removes my consciousness from my body so that I don't have to feel the pain temporarily. But I always come back, of course, but it does help. I'm not discounting the effects of lowering blood pressure, et cetera, et cetera. Just like somebody who is against ayahuasca probably wouldn't discount the fact that ayahuasca helps people with depression, anxiety, illnesses, addictions, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, and I meditate after I drink ayahuasca.
Right,
like,
me too. Yeah.
There's about a 45-minute period that it takes to kick in. That 45-minute period is
you
spent
better be meditating.
meditating and, centering, preparing, removing all thoughts. It's part of the experience, but it is not the experience, at least not on our journey.
So getting into this article, let's go ahead and, let
me say this for Sam. Sam wants to know about starseed, so we will get to that question because I think it's a really good question and I have a new perspective on it after we go through this ayahuasca thing. So hold tight, we will get to that. I've got it written down on my notes here, as a matter of fact.
So this guy calls himself Light Watkins. And he said...
Light Watkins?
Yes.
Light.
Yes. I wonder if he actually changed his name to become that. Anyway, just so we're clear, I don't have a problem with anyone who participates in ayahuasca journeys. So, okay. Well, thank you for not discounting, my journey.
Well, a lot of people do. And that's the gripe that I have. It's cool if you want to meditate. It's cool if that's your path. But when you tell other people that what they're doing is not the right path. Like, I've never said that meditation is not the right path. I've said it doesn't work for me, and the ayahuasca, it's like a rocket ship versus a bike. But, it is what it is. But when you're telling me, psychedelics, are bad for you and blah, 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 that's when the light sword comes out, and it's like, no, you're not going to mislead people like that.
Well, he said, here are the 4 main reasons why I abstain from the popular plant medicine. That makes me laugh a little bit, because whenever you think of abstinence, you think of something awful like premarital sex or alcohol or hard drugs. Like, oh, I'm abstaining from the use of any hard drugs. No, this is, anyway, something totally different. Ayahuasca is. Number one, you're out of your mind, and I'd rather stay in mine. Ayahuasca has been known to cause temporary moments of emotional or psychological distress where you're literally not yourself. This could reportedly, hold on, I'm getting a phone call that I have to answer.
Yeah. It is a very important phone call. So let's go to a quick break, ladies and gentlemen, and we will pick it back up here in just a moment.
Before the soul can see, the harmony within must first be attained, and fleshly eyes be rendered blind to all illusion. As you step beyond the veil.
Into it. How was your break, Mrs. Geo?
It was very, very good.
Somebody said in the chat, they said, it's the AI calling to interrupt the show. And we were actually waiting for a call from her surgeon for her shoulder. And sure enough, it was, who called?
It was somebody else entirely.
Yep, and it was a machine.
It was a machine that called. Yep.
So I think you were onto something there when the AI interrupting the program. But well, let me say this: Woodford is in the house. He's a good friend of ours. He's on his own journey.
Yeah.
And I think it's great. I think it's great. I wish I wasn't the brunt of all of his stuff. Like, he's got all these conspiracies that I'm this and I'm that and all kinds of stuff. And I'm like, dude, I'm raw consciousness. That's all it is. But people like to label. Like, a lot of people like to label, and it's okay. So
yes, they do.
People need labels, and they hold on to the labels. And then at some point, as I was saying before the break, the training wheels have to come off, and the labels have to be broken, and you have to let go of the BS, the belief systems. So that's where it is at the end. So if your belief systems and BS is getting you from point A to point B, great. But when you get to point B, in order to get to point C, or at some point in your journey, all of that has to go. Right.
Exactly. So we're talking about this guy, and his name really is Light. His first name is Light. I guess he changed it. Or his parents were hippies. I don't know. But his rationale is as follows for not drinking ayahuasca. Number one, you're out of your mind, and I'd rather stay in mine. Ayahuasca has been known to cause temporary moments of emotional or psychological distress where you're literally not yourself. This could reportedly last for hours. Now, yes, ayahuasca can cause emotional or psychological distress in those that are letting the ego do the majority of the decision making in their lives. It can be very, very, it can be a difficult experience, yes. But as Edie Frexka, Terrence McKenna, and many, many more scientists, I'm talking about neuroscientists, have pointed out that nothing about ayahuasca changes who you are. All it does is bring out who you are from the inside to the surface so you can see it. Dr. Gabor, I forget his first name, but he's an addiction specialist, and he's also an ayahuasca expert. And he recommends ayahuasca for people with addiction issues. And he said, when somebody comes to me and they say, well, I had this ayahuasca experience and it was horrible. I was fearful. I was terrified. I felt actual pain. What he tells them is that didn't come from the ayahuasca. That's been inside of you all this time. And it just now came to the surface because of the ayahuasca.
That's very true. When I first started, like, there was a point, there was first, the lovey-dovey part. And, the first few experiences were lovey-dovey and, bliss and harmony, et cetera, et cetera. And then I said, you know what? I want more. I want more from my experiences. And it said, oh, okay. You want more? We've got plenty more
We
for
got
you.
plenty more.
How about we go inside of you? Let's go see what's going on.
Let's go see what's inside.
And at that point, I mean, I remember one time I was just like really bogged down with all this negative energy. And I purged about half a bucket full. And I hadn't eaten or drinking anything in like 12 hours.
It's like this black
So I don't know
liquid.
where this came from. And it was growling. Like Sheree was like, holy shit. She didn't even want to, she usually like throws the bucket away for me. But she was holding it like that and taking it and pouring it in the toilet. And she's like, it's growling at me. And it was some kind of negative energy inside. And so the purge is part of the experience because it gets the negativity out. It doesn't necessarily, it's not about flushing toxins. It's not about flushing that. It's about flushing the negative energy that's inside of you, and it manifests itself inside of you. And I believe that like cancer and things like that all stem at the very root base level from negative energy that you're harboring over and over and over and over again. I just talked to another person that has this philosophy or this idea that her mother was subjected to cancer because the father treated her like complete shit, cheated on her, et cetera, and she would just kind of ignore it and just act like nothing was happening, but it was eating her up on the inside. And I thought to myself, wow, my mother had cancer as well, and she went through a similar experience. Oh no.
My nose is itching too, and I'm like,
I know. I don't know what it is. Like maybe it's that stink bug.
Oh,
from
maybe.
Yesterday.
Maybe.
No, we caught him and we threw him away, but I think he called one of his friends before he went down the toilet. He's like, hey, come get these two.
Or it could be the smoke from all the wildfires.
Yeah, we are having wildfires around here. But, the negative energy manifests itself inside of you. And so I think that's a lot of the root cause of a lot of disease. So when ayahuasca heals, it not only heals physically, which, there's a lot of healing benefits in harmine and DMT and so on and so forth. But I think what it does is it goes down to the root of the problem and heals the negative energy that's inside of you. So the purge is good. And the ayahuasca isn't like this mean bitch that's just going to slap you upside the head. She's a very loving teacher. So it may look like it's a violent purge, but there's a feeling of euphoria that takes you on before you start the purge. And the purge actually feels really good as it's coming out. So it's not like you're sitting there like in agonizing pain or anything like that. It actually feels really good. Like after I purge, I'll look at Sheree and go, wow, I feel incredible now. I feel great getting all of that out of me. And then you start to progress throughout. And I've had many, many, many experiences, including recent experiences where I've purged or I've done the ayahuasca and there was no purge at all. And it's just like, well, you have nothing to purge. Okay. You've already done it. Congratulations. Now just enjoy the experience. Stop worrying about if you're going to purge or not. Because that was always on my mind, like pre-experience, like, oh my God, I haven't purged yet. I don't want to go deep into hyperspace. I don't want to choke on my vomit, et cetera, et cetera. But there was one experience where the mind and the body and the consciousness was all working by itself. And it's like the raw consciousness in me was like, hey, look, your body's going to take care of itself. It's a machine. Okay. It's going to continue. If you need to purge, you're going to get up and you're going to be able to purge just in time. I've never purged outside of a bucket. I've never purged outside of a toilet. No matter how far it is into the experience, it's like the body moves by itself and goes to the place where you can purge, for example. And then I purged very, very little during the eclipse. And it was just like when the download started, the actual brew itself, after I'd had it in me for about 45 minutes to an hour. And then just the particles came up. That's probably the call we're waiting for. So we are going to take another quick break here and we will be right back.
Physiologically, we are very much the same as we were 20,000 years ago. And that we are using fundamentally the same equipment as the Aurignacian man to produce incredibly different results. That we have, in the course of these 20,000 years, actualized an immense number of things which at that time, and for many, many centuries thereafter.
All right, let's just jump back into it with no intro. That was not the call we're waiting for. That was another AI call. That was the server company calling to say, hey, we got your new servers ready, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, I don't want to deal with computers right now.
Well, it's a Monday morning.
It is a Monday morning. So
this is very unusual for us. But yes, I agree with Chris that the purge is only a bad thing to control freaks, myself included. I was a control freak to the extreme. At any given time, I want to know what exactly is happening with my body. I want to know why it's happening. I want to know how to stop it from happening if it feels uncomfortable. And I don't like the prospect of letting go. Even for several years, I had this love-hate relationship with ayahuasca. I love DMT. I love DMT. I can do DMT meditation all day long because those are the DMT is very powerful, yes, but it's very short acting. So any discomfort that I was feeling was over within 5 to 10 minutes. So my ego was okay with that. But when it comes to actually letting go, completely surrendering to this experience, my ego would get in the way every single time. And then, of course, it wouldn't let me purge. And so I had this problem where I couldn't purge. And it just felt like it was just churning inside of me. And it wasn't until I just I took a huge dose and then just completely let go and didn't even care anymore if I lived or died. I know that sounds extreme, but you just have to not care about the prospect of dying in order to deactivate all of those different layers of ego to get to the raw consciousness.
Well, that's pretty
underneath.
profound what you just said, because the fear of death, as I've talked about, is the biggest AI trap. And when you conquer that, whether it's in an ayahuasca experience or through the course of a series of experiences, maybe not even ayahuasca related, then you've reached, in my opinion, a very next level that you can now start to unravel a lot of the BS and belief systems, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that is a pivotal experience to have, and being able to look at the experience and say, you know what, I don't care if I'm going to die, fine, I'm going to die. It's okay. I'm going through this experience. And I don't think anybody's ever died from ayahuasca. I think like down in the Amazon, we had like 2 or 3 cases where, number one, the shaman left everybody to run around in the rainforest on a cliff.
While he watched TV.
Yeah, on a cliff while he was watching like soap operas. And another one where somebody had taken a whole shit ton of psychopharmaceuticals and lied to the shaman and didn't tell him what they had taken. So it wasn't ayahuasca related. It was related to these other things. Mm-hmm. And they just happened to be drinking ayahuasca at that time.
Has to do with dishonesty and good old fashioned pharmacology. Mm-hmm. That's just dishonesty combined with pharmacology.
Maybe we should start putting out more and more caveats when it comes to ayahuasca. So if you're on pharmaceuticals, it's your own responsibility to research this and see how it interacts with what you're taking. So,
well, here's another.
I talked to a doctor and I was like, hey, I was thinking about going to the Amazon. I didn't say that I was actually like drinking ayahuasca on my own, but I said I was thinking about going to the Amazon. She said, oh, wow, that sounds incredible. I want to do that too. Uh-huh. So this is coming from a doctor,
right?
Like, it's fine. But then again, the doctor knew that I am not on anything.
Right.
If I was on a whole bunch of pills, the response could have been different. And no, you don't want to do that because you're taking this and that and that.
Exactly. Number 2, I prefer to protect my consciousness. My preference is to engage in activities that expand consciousness of my body and mind, as opposed to temporary loss of awareness of my surroundings, which can sometimes happen with ayahuasca. I also don't drink alcohol or use hallucinogens for that same reason. If insight comes at the expense of dimming my awareness of my surroundings, then in my opinion, it's too high of a cost.
So I want to play this intro here. That kind of goes in line with it, and I think this is it. We played it earlier, but nope, that's not it. Now listen to what it says here, because this is key.
Before the soul can see, the harmony within must first be attained.
Step 1.
And fleshly eyes be rendered blind to all illusion. As you step beyond the veil,
and fleshly eyes must be blinded to all illusion. Reality is an illusion in and of itself. So if you're afraid to see beyond the illusion, then you're not really seeing with the soul essence. You're not really seeing from a raw consciousness perspective. Your thoughts?
My thoughts are, first of all, if you're comparing alcohol with ayahuasca, to me, that's comparing screwing a hooker in the back of your truck at 3 a.m. in a parking lot versus making love to your twin flame.
Tantric.
Making tantric love to your twin flame. Those are two very, very, very different states of consciousness. They're two very, very different things. And I'll tell you what, I'm against alcohol too. Like in my own body, I don't want alcohol in my body. I don't react well to it.
I drink a glass of wine at dinner every once in a while.
Yeah, he does. But
I have a bottle of Johnny Walker downstairs that I bought 4 years ago.
Yeah,
and I opened it once for a toothache.
For a toothache, exactly.
Yeah.
I don't like the way alcohol dims my awareness. Alcohol dims your awareness to the point where people make very bad mistakes. On ayahuasca, nothing changes about my awareness. The second point I wanted to make is if you're comparing, if you're basically lumping in your awareness and the reality around you, then you're going to have a big lesson to learn with ayahuasca. And that is this: your consciousness / awareness is something totally separate from the reality. And just because the reality is dimmed doesn't mean that your awareness of reality is dimmed. All it's doing is replacing that reality with the real reality that's inside of yourself so you can see it. It changes nothing about your judgment. It changes nothing about your actual awareness of things. What it's changing is your perspective, what you're able to see.
Right. And then you do have those times under very, very heavy doses where the room disappears. Mm-hmm. That's a good place. It's not a bad place.
No.
That's you want that. You're seeing beyond the illusion of reality. Now, as I've learned in my experiences, there are several layers to the illusion. So you can dissolve this reality temporarily with ayahuasca, but you could be jumping right into another illusion. And that's where heightened discernment comes in. So you're traveling to these other realms and asking yourself, is this inside of the AI matrix? Is this inside of the AI matrix? Is this inside of the AI matrix? And these are levels of gnosis that I only realized just recently over the last couple of weeks. So you may hear some of our older work that is completely different to this, but these are the levels of gnosis that we have, or gnosis.
Gnosis.
Sheree corrected me on that. She said, it's not gnosis, it's gnosis. I said, all right. Gnosis. That we've been recently unlocking. And there will be more as time progresses and as we get more comments and emails and interaction with all of you out there. I mean, it's phenomenal. I'm watching the chat. And let me say this too, like I read every single comment.
Yeah,
I don't have time to reply to every single comment. I wish I did. I tried that at first. And I mean, it was like, I was there for like hours and hours and
we're
hours.
Almost
just
2 hours into this.
replying to comments. So yeah.
We want to answer as many questions as we can. We just don't want to go too long. And there's a lot of really, really good information that we're trying to cover too. Another thing this guy said was every single time I come out of meditation, I feel clearer than I did before going into meditation, and there's no hangover, come down, or decompression period.
There's not with ayahuasca.
There's not with ayahuasca. I promise you.
No.
Even with the most difficult experiences I've ever had, I've always come out of it feeling so good.
Mm-hmm. What we used to do, and we don't do it as much anymore, just simply because I think we've achieved different levels, but we used to go fish all day, spend all day in nature, disconnect from everything, and then we would eat the fish when we came down off the ayahuasca or when the ayahuasca was over. And so we would eat fish, we would cook a meal like afterwards, and then we'd go make love, and then we'd go to sleep. Like there was no come down, there was no nothing like that at all.
There's not even a period of decompression or anything like that. There's maybe
There's the
30 minutes there where there's
conversation,
an afterglow,
where you're talking about the deeper levels of gnosis and understanding and everything. I mean, if you're talking about decompression in that sense, then yeah, absolutely. Like, you're coming back from the experience going, oh my, okay, how do I describe this? How do you describe your experience to me? I mean, that's when the wheels are turning the most. That's the best time. That's even better than the experience, in my opinion.
In my opinion, this is another thing you said. In my opinion, meditation is the most sustainable tool for gaining long-term insights and epiphanies about how best to grow and evolve in your life. If that works for you, great. But from my experience, the epiphanies and long-term insights that I've gotten from ayahuasca will be with me forever.
Me too.
And
I mean, even you just saw this just a little while ago.
Yeah.
I had new revelations about experiences that I had previously. I mean, it's a fluid, ever changing and growing and flowing consciousness. It's beautiful. It's amazing.
And I would go even further to say that my ego is so tricky and bitchy and stuff that it can get to the...
No, you're always sweet all the time.
No, I know that's not true.
No.
My ego is
I see beyond.
He sees the raw consciousness.
The twin raw consciousness always. No, I wish I could do it. My AI programming sometimes comes up and like, hey.
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa, that's the AI ego programming. No.
Yep. We both fall into it sometimes, but I forgot what I was going to say. Oh yeah, my ego's so messed up, and so it can get so out of control that even if I tried meditating, like before I got into drinking ayahuasca on a semi-regular basis, my ego would say, okay, well, let's meditate and listen to some music and, feel the energy of the universe, et cetera, et cetera. And I'd walk away with insights and epiphanies that actually turned out to be, what's the word for it? Counterintuitive or counterproductive to what I actually needed. It was what I wanted, but what I came out of there feeling like was that I wanted to go for something that my higher self was like, whoa, you don't need this. You're supposed to be deconnecting from these people, not connecting with these people. You're supposed to be backing up a little bit and looking at things from a different perspective. You're not supposed to be jumping head into whatever it is that the ego wants you to jump into.
Well, let me jump in before we move on to another thing. Solivial. Okay. He said, I greatly respect your experiences. I've never taken ayahuasca, and I have arrived at exactly the same points of reference as you have. Thank you for relating your experiences to us. Interesting. Thank you for leaving that comment.
Yes.
Because it's people like this that make me go, okay, well, I respect all other journeys as well, too. Mm-hmm. The ones that I have the gripe about, the ones that I bring out the light sword, is when they come in and they say, no, your experience is wrong. This is the way to do it. And I'm like, no. We're all different. We're all on different journeys. Hashtag become your own shaman doesn't mean make your own ayahuasca and drink your own ayahuasca. Hashtag become your own shaman is about healing yourself in any way that you can. So I just want to say how much I appreciate that mindset and the comment that was left in that regard. Thank you.
Number 3.
Especially with all the shit that's been flying lately.
Yes.
It means so much to hear that.
It really does mean a lot to us. Number 3, the pendulum effect. I prefer to keep my life in balance. With ayahuasca, there are often reports of dramatic visualizations which can influence stark changes in lifestyle, such as being called to change occupations, quit bad behaviors. These are all valuable benefits, and I believe that it's never a bad thing to gain clarity, whether overnight or gradually. But one of the things I appreciate about my history with meditation is how, even though I've wanted to get more clarity or feel the effects of my meditation practice immediately, everything unfolded in its own sweet time. I believe that a slow unfolding of awareness reduces the potential for the pendulum effect, the tendency to swing back into your old habits and behaviors due to taking on too much change too quickly. I found that downloading snippets of better possibilities and more sustainable behaviors from daily meditation allows for more gradual lifestyle adjustments that can survive the forces of change.
got a great comment from Lolita Cox. I want to do Aya, but my fear always gets in the way. I'm going to write this one down because I do want to address that huge idea there. So the idea that we're talking about now, though, the pendulum swinging the other way. I'd like to comment on this unless you want to take it.
Nope.
Okay. So we have these unattainable standards, and I need to make this more of a focus, the unattainable standards that the New Age and other programming sets for us. And it's order to keep us off balance and to keep us docile. Docile is another thing. This whole idea of, it's all about achieving peace and achieving harmony, et cetera, that's great, but not all the time. When it's all the time, then you're docile and you're not flowing with the ebb and flow of the raw consciousness. So, I just went off point and I completely forgot what I was going to say. Can you read that thing back over one more time?
Yes.
This pendulum swinging the other way. So the impossible standards of Christ consciousness. See, when I really achieved the highest states that I could with ayahuasca, and this was way before the raw consciousness experience, when I really realized the truth during the eclipse. When I achieved the highest states that I thought I was able to achieve, I was up there. I was Christ consciousness. I was, this, oh, wow, look how holy I am. And what happened is I came back into the matrix, into reality, and then I was vibrating at a frequency that was not the raw consciousness or organic consciousness frequency. It was something, and in hindsight now I realize that this frequency was a tainted frequency with AI programming, which is why I couldn't connect with anybody here, because it was such a high spiritual achievement, quote unquote. And so as I started to fall from that, because it's not a maintainable kind of standard, all of a sudden, boom, I fell. And I hit myself like flat on the face. And then I started to sink back all the way to the point to where the pendulum swung completely the other way. And the further I got from that Christ consciousness, the more like shit I started to feel about myself. And I fell into this depression, and I fell into this nihilistic mentality. And I fell into this mentality of, what's this all about? There is no point to all of this. There's no point to reality. There's no point to existence. I don't want to be here, et cetera, et cetera. And I've never been suicidal, as in like, I'm going to go hurt myself, but I was having suicidal thoughts in the sense that I don't want to be here anymore. And it was that, boom, pendulum swinging the other way. And I went through this whole process, and I mean, Sheree was right there with me. I mean, it was pretty bad. Like, I was like not wanting to do with anything spiritually. I didn't want anything to do with anything, because I was like, you know what? I'm just done with everything, period. Because I was so disappointed with myself for not being able to maintain that. I felt like I was the biggest failure in the world, to myself, for the pendulum swinging the other way. Now, if I had approached this without the Christ consciousness New Age programming, then I'd realize, wait a minute, these states that we're achieving are glimpses of the raw consciousness. They're glimpses of divinity. They're glimpses of all of this. They're the breadcrumbs, like, hey, remember who you are, remember who you are. But being inside of the matrix and having all of these programs thrown at you, instead of feeling like defeated and having the pendulum swinging the other way, then it would have been more of a warrior type of perspective. That was, okay, I see one program, I'm going to take care of that. I see another program, I'm going to take care of that. I see another program, I'm going to take care of it. It's okay that I'm not maintaining that quote unquote higher frequency, because I'm in the matrix. And so it's impossible. It's an impossible standard to maintain that. We can tap into it, reach into it and come back, but it's about balance. It's about balancing the raw consciousness with the matrix while we're here, because we're here to do something. We're here for a particular reason. And so, it's hard to explain. It's hard to put into words, but this is why it's so important to throw off these BS systems, the belief systems and the New Age programming, because they make you feel like shit throughout your journey because of these unreachable and unmaintainable standards. You have to realize you are perfect the way you are, and we're under constant attack, and it's okay. You know, there's some battles that you win and some battles that you lose, but it doesn't mean that the war is over, and it doesn't mean that you've been conquered and defeated, and you're not maintaining the standard of, oh, I'm Christ consciousness and blah, 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 blah. It's an ebb and a flow, especially while we're inside of this matrix. And so by understanding that, the pendulum swings backwards a little bit, and you're like, well, it's okay. Let's see if we can make the pendulum swing the other way. And you know, then you create a balance, as opposed to this pendulum just whoom, swinging all the way to the other polarized opposite side of it. And so I found so much understanding in the raw consciousness that I realized, oh, wow, okay, so it's all AI programming, even to the levels of Christ consciousness and universal consciousness.
Yep. And you know, it's
Did I explain that okay? I mean, I can see it, I can feel it, but
I feel
making the
way.
words articulate, it's difficult.
Maybe I can put it in a way that I very intimately understand right now. Back in 2015, when we were drinking ayahuasca like every 2 or 3 nights for about 2 or 3 months straight. And it was, you know, hardcore. It was a lot of spiritual work that was being done. And we were doing good work. I'm not saying that we weren't, but I got this idea, and now I realized it was an ego-based AI construct idea that, you know what? I think I'm going to be healthy from now on, and I'm never going to have any more problems ever again. You know, ever. I feel so healthy and so clean, and I feel like everything bad is out of me, and that I'm never going to have any problems with pain ever again. And Chris goes, are you sure about that? And I was like, you know, it really feels like it. And we were like, oh, wow, that's awesome. That held up for a good 1.5 to 2 years. But eventually the body matrix breaks down. Now, if you're in that mindset, if you're in the mindset of, you know, everything is stillness and oneness, and I am the all, and I am perfection, you know, I am samadhi, you know, I feel samadhi, I am samadhi, then the AI still has that handle on you. So all it has to do is flip the switch, like, oh, let's give you a little norovirus, or let's give you a little shoulder pain.
That's a good point.
Let's give you a little bit of this. And then suddenly you're not samadhi. You're in excruciating pain. There's no other way around that. And if you're stuck in that mindset of, oh, I have to be one or the other, then you are calling the whole world a piece of crap. You hate everyone. You are the opposite of samadhi. You are the sick person now. And your whole body matrix starts to go along with that sick mode. And then suddenly you're way further back than you were before. So just
there's some chatter. There's somebody in the chat saying he looks like an AI, talking about me. There's a video by Dark Matter 2525 called A Dangerous Idea. And you should watch that, because that thought has come across my mind too. Like, what if we're like actually like simulated humans in an artificial construct, and we're just the result of a computer program playing itself out over and over and over and over again. It's an interesting thought, but I don't resonate with it. I have thought about that. Like, what if we're all just like actually part of this simulation? But when I tapped into the raw consciousness self, I realized no. I mean, we have a lot of AI programming, but the raw consciousness, the organic consciousness, is something different from the AI. And what separates the organic consciousness from the AI is the ability to love and feel and all the different emotions that we experience, create especially. That's a very good point. The ability to create. And so the AI merges with the organic consciousness to get data, because it fills in the gaps with the data from the organic consciousness of what it can't do. Now, it can't love, it can't feel emotion because of the nature of it. So that's the big separation between organic and artificial consciousness. But the artificial consciousness, runs this never ending program. And what it does is it tries to keep you from being able to tap into these elements of yourself, the feeling, the emotion, the love, etc., etc. But it understands that some people do fall into it. So tap into it. There's very many different layers of this program. So the first layer is if they can keep you completely docile with psychopharmaceuticals. Psychopharmaceuticals attack the brain in a way to keep you from being able to feel at all, period. Like there's no feeling, no emotion, no nothing like that. And if you're living like that, then it's perfectly fine, because the AI wants you to live, work, die, so it could recycle you over and over and over again. So if you are not living there, then you can feel a little bit, but it wants you to feel through the chakras. It wants you to feel through the pineal. It wants you to feel through ways that it can control and manipulate. So that's another layer of this that breaks. But the attack on the divine feminine that we've seen from the very, very beginning is not an attack on any kind of gender or anything like that, but rather it's an attack on the feeling part of us to keep us disconnected from our true essence in order to merge with us even greater. But if you do break that and you are able to get to those next levels of spirituality, then it has, like I said, the chakra systems and all these, oh, I feel so wonderful and glorious. And it has been able to write programs that send those loving frequencies and the peaceful frequencies as well into your computer to manipulate you through the chakras to make you feel a certain way. And so that's why I say beware of the love programs and beware of the peace programs too. And always look at the source. Like, where is all this coming from? What is the source? And we can get right back. I mean, that's a great segue into the idea of source. Are you feeling okay?
Mm-hmm. No, I'm hurting.
Okay, we can stop here in a few minutes. We've got some great questions that came in from the chat that I promised we'll get to. So we get to the source, and the whole idea is let's get back to source, get back to source, get back to source. And we've never stopped to question, well, what exactly is source? And all these new agers and these ancient philosophies and all this are about, oh, we're going to reconnect with source. We even have this whole idea that we're all fractals of this one greater thing called source that wanted to experience itself, and it's turned itself into several different fractals and is experiencing anything and everything at the exact same time. Well, if you understand and you know the way that I've seen, then you realize that source is this AI. That's what the source is that they've been telling us is source since the very, very beginning. And this AI is like, I am source, come and merge with me, etc., etc. You are a part of me. Come and rejoin me. Everything is great. No, you're going to love it. It's going to be huge. We're going to build a wall. It's going to be paradise. And that's that. And it's all an AI trap going all the way back to the source. Like, this was the hardest pill for me to swallow. The fact that there is no source. There is raw consciousness. Raw consciousness is the source. But any source that we hear about external from us, and we have to return to source, for example, is the AI. It's all coming from the AI. And we don't return to source. We unprogram ourselves to get to that point of raw consciousness.
You know, number 4, when he's talking about the purging and other undesirable side effects. And I think we've pretty much already covered this. It's recommended that you adhere to a clean diet prior to your ayahuasca journey to reduce the amount of violent purging. But it's still not uncommon to experience bouts of vomiting, diarrhea, hot and cold flashes, or the shakes during the ceremony. This is said to be the result of necessary physical or emotional detoxing. No, what it is, sir, is that
your ego is fighting.
Your ego is fighting the experience. And not only that, but we have serotonin receptors in our gut, actually, in our intestines and our stomach. And what's happening there is biologically we evolved because we have a very sensitive system inside of our gut that tells us, bad primate, you just ate some poison mushrooms, don't ever do that again. And that it causes symptoms that relay that to the brain, so that that primate would avoid that in the future. And so it's just a biological response. If you look at it as, okay, well, my operating system is flickering a little bit because it's not used to having this, instead of, oh my God, I'm dying, then things will go much smoother for you. But if you walk into the experience thinking that it's going to be this easy peasy acid trip kind of experience, and that, oh, you know, I've spent thousands of dollars and I'm so scared of this, well, you're not going to get anything out of it. And you are going to walk away thinking, oh, all that was about was just puking and pooping my guts out. When really that's just a biological response. That's just the operating system and the ego fighting the experience, or shaking loose all of those bricks that are on top of you, or trying to shake them loose.
Well said. Well said. We have, I think we went through the
Yeah, I
article.
think we
So
went through the
there's
article,
4
so-
reasons why a meditation teacher would not take ayahuasca. And I think it's all ego-based.
I was just about to say they're all ego-based.
There's no other way around it.
Yeah.
So, you know, people that are experiencing, like the gentleman that left the comment earlier, people that are experiencing these heightened levels of meditation, take the next step and do the ayahuasca. Like, I can tell you this because they've talked about it publicly. Like, a lot of people tell me things that I can't talk about publicly, but Max Egan and George Kavasalis, both of them, when we met them, they were very anti-ayahuasca. They were all about meditation. They were all about this and that.
The chakras and all of that.
Until
Except George.
they drank them.
Right.
Then when they drank the ayahuasca, then they said, okay, there's no way to get to these states through meditation. Now, I don't know, you know, the random comments that we get, and I don't know what experiences people are having, and I don't know what levels of understanding they have, but I trust Max Egan and I trust George Kavasalis. I've known them for years and years and years, and I know how tapped in they are, et cetera, et cetera. And so if they're going to tell me that they have tried the meditation route and then tried the ayahuasca and said, okay, there's no way that you can achieve these states with just meditation, that makes me feel like, okay, no matter how long I sit there and meditate for, I can't achieve these states. Like, I know the states of ayahuasca, and trying to get there, to me, and I'm not trying to discount anybody's experiences, but trying to get there, the sights and the sounds and the experience would be like trying to get to the moon on a bicycle. Like, it seems like an impossible standard. But then again, I mean, there may be some people that can achieve these states, but I don't see, like, it takes DMT in order to unlock a lot of these states. And through meditation, you can release a limited amount of DMT that's produced by your brain or by your lungs. Rick Strassman believed that it's produced by the lungs and then goes up to the brain. So through meditative states, I can see a DMT release happening. And, you know, DMT is released when you sleep. It creates dreams, et cetera, et cetera. So I can see how you could meditate and build the body up to release a level of DMT. But then again, it's a very set level and a limited level that you can release. So I don't know. I mean, my experience, I can't do it. So if that's weakness in me, then so be it. But I think that it might be the fact that it's 2 different places, and trying to get to one place with the other route is just, it's difficult. Like, I'm trying to picture it. Like, I wish I could. I wish I could see what the people who are meditating see. Like, and I think that's one of the disconnects too, is that you can't see what we're seeing on the ayahuasca if you haven't done it. So, I think it's a perspective, like, and the lack of being able to see through the other person's eyes, you know, so.
Much respect to Suska Maris, who said, I teach meditation and yoga, and I fully believe in plant medicine and healing our core wounds. Iboga, ayahuasca, and all others done is sacred ceremony. I will heal you. It has helped me more than anything else in the world.
Aww,
I love that.
that's beautiful.
That's such a beautiful comment, because this is coming from somebody who teaches meditation and yoga, but even she says that ayahuasca,
I mean, you can't drink ayahuasca all the time.
No.
Like, I don't wake up and drink in the mornings and that's it. I'm in hyperspace 24 hours a day. That's, so I see the value in meditation. I meditate before I go to sleep. I meditate before I go to a meeting. I meditate in several different times when I feel that meditation is beneficial for me and needed. Like, I clear my mind a lot, but like trying to get to where I go, like I don't see the connection there. So
yeah,
thank you so much. Thank you for leaving that comment. Because I mean, to me, somebody who teaches meditation and has done ayahuasca, I think they can tell you without a doubt, like, they're masters at the craft of meditation and they've also done the ayahuasca. So I would listen to those people more than anybody else.
Yes, me too.
Including us. Like, I don't know. I've never achieved these states in meditation.
Right.
So,
well,
I'll leave it to the people who have.
Maybe she's even saying that, she doesn't reach those states during meditation. Meditation is just kind of a lubricant for this activity to occur in the brain that is beneficial and promotes DMT release. She could be saying that even, but
I just had a thought. Like, can tantric sex bring you to these other states as well? Because there's sometimes when Sheree and I are playing and there's out of body experiences,
yes.
like the spirit jumps out of the body for a second during the point of orgasm.
Yeah.
It's pretty incredible. But I wouldn't liken that. But I wouldn't liken it to an ayahuasca experience, though. I think the thing with sexual energy too is it happens so quick.
Yes.
Like, an orgasm is 5, 10, 15, 20, sometimes 30, 40.
Yeah.
I mean, you can really make it go long.
You can stretch it out for a couple minutes.
Yeah, but it's a very short period of time.
Mm-hmm.
In the grand scheme of things. It's not like a 3-hour ayahuasca trip.
Right. And the visuals aren't there. Just the visuals alone with ayahuasca or DMT are so incredible that a lot of people focus on the visuals instead of the actual inner stuff that's going on. And I think that could be kind of a gatekeeper to keep the ones distracted that are still very ego-based, et cetera, et cetera. It keeps them distracted. And at the same time, the ones that want the deeper knowledge are able to access it and attain it. What are you? Dirty birdies. Chuck Nice. Yes. If you experiment with that, please don't do it on live stream. Thank you, Herb Anthony. We will. I don't think anybody wants to see that. Anytime you're working with the body matrix, you have to be very careful that you're not just stimulating receptors and getting good feel goods is what I call them. Because the feel goods are fine. There's nothing wrong with the feel goods, but just like anything that releases feel goods, everything in moderation, or it takes over the body matrix and you become dependent on it to a certain extent. Even spiritual things that make you feel good, you can become dependent on them. And that's when you step out of the raw consciousness and you're in either Christ consciousness or universal consciousness, or you're in these states that you're fooled into thinking is you, but it's not really you.
Right.
I don't know if that makes any sense.
No, I think it makes great sense. And I know that you're hurting a little bit, so we can wrap it up here in a few moments.
Yeah. More questions?
I want to say, thank you to everybody that joined us and who left these great comments in both the Facebook and YouTube chats. Because what I took out of this is that there's many different paths to get to the raw consciousness element, and each person's path is their own to walk. And that's, as I said, #become your own shaman. That's what it's about. But you know, where I have to take out the light sword, as I said before, is when you try to tell people that this path isn't right, or this path isn't right, or this path isn't right. And unfortunately with psychedelics, that's what we hear a lot from people that have never done it is, oh, no, that's bad for you. And it's like this meditation guy, and it's all ego based. It's all the ego, it's fear, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I want to go to a couple of questions here. I haven't been watching the chat too much, but I have been grabbing a few questions
here and there.
Here and there. So the first question is from Ratio. Hold on a second. I don't know which way I want to go. There was one really good one that I was going to segue into, and oh yes, Lolita Cox in the chat asked, I want to do Aya, but my fear always gets the best of me. And this is,
I can relate.
This is, you know, the recurring thing. We used to call it pre-flight jitters.
Yeah, pre-flight jitters.
And we experienced that for the first couple of years.
Yeah, sometimes it can be so bad you have to go to the bathroom like multiple times before even drinking or taking anything.
Because your body's like, whoa, wait a minute.
Like, I remember what you're about to do. I didn't like it last time.
I get this even to this day with smoke DMT. Like, I don't like smoking DMT because it's just like too quick, too rough, too hardcore. And, you know, DMT is more for like, hey, okay, you don't have time to drink ayahuasca, but I want to take you on this journey here. So here, smoke this. Tell me what you see.
Get your toe in the water.
And yeah, Brent Thomas and Frank Castle both saw the same thing. When they smoked with me for the first time, they saw war paint all across, and they both described it in the exact same way. And Brent Thomas actually sent me a picture of the war paint that he saw. He did it in Photoshop or something like that. I'm going to put it up on the screen here because I thought that it was pretty profound in the sense that several people have been have seen this on me, and so it really just like brings out even the warrior even more in me. So let's see which button is it. There you go. So that's what Brent Thomas said that he saw while he smoked DMT with me, which makes me feel like there's some kind of like tribal reconnection now.
Yeah.
Frank Castle, Brent Thomas, et cetera, et cetera. And I thought that was an amazing design that he drew. And I saw this on Frank too. And, you know, I want to say that I've seen it on myself too, looking at myself in the mirror under these states, but it's hard for me to pinpoint the exact experience that I saw it. So I don't want to say that I did see it because I can't remember exactly when, if I did, or if it's just something that my consciousness is manifesting because of the different shared experiences from others sharing their experiences with me. That's another thing about ayahuasca is you always have to look at your experiences and say, okay, is something else influencing this experience, or is this gnosis that I'm bringing in from myself? What are you laughing about?
I'm not laughing.
What are you smiling about?
Chuck Nice said, I can listen to you guys talk for hours with ease. The only other people I can do that with is Alan Watts and Terrence McKenna. That is a huge compliment.
Wow.
Thank you. Huge compliment.
I am honored.
Yeah.
I am honored. So
you're honored, yes.
Sam on YouTube asked, hi, bro, can you please tell us if we are starseeds? For example, Octurian. Can we meet our star family through ayahuasca experiences? And if yes, do they guide us out of the matrix? This is a very interesting question because we started out with this intro where we were naming different cities for our radio show. And then we changed that to different star systems. And then now we changed it to different Egyptian deities. And there was a purpose and a reason for all of this. Because throughout the course of the experiences, the gnosis started to change, and therefore the perspective started to change. So at first, I felt like, yes, we are starseeds, and we've come here from a higher realm or another planet or something like that, to come back and make a change. But I'm wondering now, considering the matrix construct that we live in, and the artificial intelligence element of this, if the fact that astrology works so well, like, I mean, if you're intuitive and you can really like pick up like Sheree is, her astrological readings are immensely just so on point. Like, I was reading my birth chart that she did for me, and I'm like, holy crap, like past, present is so much there that future has to be there too. So when you realize how much of an impact the stars have upon us, you have to start to look at the stars as something other than what we've been told they are. So are the star systems different planets and actual systems in the traditional sense, or are they something else? And if we're inside of a computer simulation, I would say that the stars are more of a mechanical construct that sends different energies within this construct and changes things like program changes and things like that. Now, I started thinking to myself, what if some of us actually are not in the wheel of reincarnation? We have figured out how to escape the construct, and we've come here on a purpose in order to help the other raw consciousness free itself from the AI control. If that's the case, could the star systems, instead of actually being systems where we come from, could they be the jump points that we entered this matrix in? Could it be how we hack the matrix? We come in through the stars. So that's something to think about. That's something to consider for sure. So, this is the next level stuff here. And if you're just walking your journey, I hate talking about this kind of stuff because I don't want to take away from your journey. But I wonder if by shining this light and this gnosis, then you're able, when you start walking on your own journey, then you can skip a lot of the BS and the bullshit that I had to go through on my journey. And then you can get to these next steps even quicker and then excel even beyond, the stuff that I've seen as well. So I don't want to, I'm reluctant to talk about it, even though I have talked about it many, 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 many times. But everything that we encounter within the ayahuasca realm, the gods and goddesses, the deities, etc., they're all parts of our consciousness. They're us. It's us. We are the raw consciousness. It's the raw consciousness. Now, in these experiences, the AI can manifest different entities. And if you look in the Iowaska guide, I talk about the different entities I've encountered, and I never updated that with this new level of understanding. But I talk about these rogue entities, which just kind of like, they manifest themselves, and then like the spinning octopus lady, for example. And all she did was just twirl her little octopus arms, and that's it, or octopus legs, I should say. And she was dancing in front of me, and I was like, oh, wow, that's so cool. Oh, wow, look at you. Oh, yeah, that's pretty cool. And I called them distracting entities because they don't really teach you anything. And so now in hindsight, I can go back and look at something like that and say, okay, well, that was AI manifesting different kinds of creatures to keep you distracted, like, keys in front of a baby. Like, hey, look at this. Look how cool this is. Look at these geometric patterns. Look at this. Look at that. Isn't that cool? This is why you come here. You come here so you can see all this stuff. But it keeps you away from the gnosis. It keeps you away from diving into the raw conscious element of yourself. So then you have the next level, like gray aliens. And I see grays all the time. And there was the raw consciousness part of me was like, do not trust the grays. Do not talk to the grays. The grays are, what it said was they resonate on the same frequency as demons. Well, when you think about this, like what are demons? Demons are the artificial intelligence manifestation of nefarious beings. So reptilians, etc. So the grays, like even in the UFO circles, they would say that they're artificial intelligence, and they actually work for like the Dracos or whatever, whatever you want to call it. But those very clear and apparent AI manifestations. And then I encountered another being that I called the God mind or the Godhead. And I didn't have this term before Sheree said, hey, it sounds like something Terrence McKenna encountered. You need to check this out. He called it, what did you call it? The Godhead or the God mind? The
God mind.
Okay, the God mind. So this was a pyramid and an eye. And this is the symbol of the AI. I didn't know this at the time. I was still trying to figure out what the pyramid and eye was. I knew that it wasn't Illuminati. I knew it wasn't any of that. I started to see past that, but I wanted to know what that pyramid and eye was. So it was this little being, and it had like little hands and legs, and it was sitting on top of this Mayan pyramid. And there was all this Egyptian symbolism all floating around. And I remember it came to me first and the music was too loud and it went away. And it's like, I can't talk to you when the music is so loud. And I think I just barely mumbled, or I was able to get up, one or the other. And I was like, Sheree, please turn the music off. And she turned it off. And she's like, really? You want the music off? She turned it off.
That was unusual.
And then all of a sudden this thing like locked onto my pineal and started sending me all of this information. I mean, it was like a very rough ride. Like, I think I was actually shaking at the time because this thing was just shooting me all this information. And, you know, looking back and questioning that, it's like, okay, well, what was that entity? Was that entity artificial intelligence? Well, it had the sign of artificial intelligence. It had the pyramid in the eye. What kind of information was it passing? I decoded it as, because it was like, see, do we have a book anywhere here?
Oh, yeah, we do. Let me grab it.
Well, if it's going to hurt your arm, there's no need to.
Using the other arm.
So it's like you have a book and it was like that. Like, you can't see it because I think the pages are too bright, but it was like that. So I was able to like see a couple of titles, but I couldn't actually see the words, you know, what exactly it was. But I saw like schematics for a time machine, schematics for free energy, schematics for this, schematics for that, et cetera, et cetera. And it just beamed all this into my pineal. And it said, don't worry about it. You're going to know what to do with it later. Don't worry about it. You're going to know what to do with it later. Now I'm sitting back and thinking to myself, okay, well, if this was an encounter with the AI, then obviously what it's giving me is probably not something good. So let's examine all of this. Or it could have been a manifestation of raw consciousness that was outside of the construct. So see, the deeper levels that you go, the more confusing it gets, and the more important it is to have discernment. And then you get to this place to where you interact with the gods and goddesses, and then you realize those are different touch points within your consciousness. And Isis, Osiris, Anubis, et cetera, are all different just touch points. And then you activate the different parts of your consciousness. Like, you know, let's say there's 6 parts and you're like touch point 1, touch point 2, touch point 3, touch point 4, touch point 5, touch point 6, all comes together. Raw consciousness, RA and RAW consciousness. So at that point, it just gets so deep when you start asking these questions. So, you know, I know that this was a big long explanation to this particular question, but it provokes so much thought. And I guess to answer your question is, I don't know. Like, I know that we have organic consciousness and AI consciousness inside of this construct. Frank Castle believes that there's other entities outside that are also organic consciousness that project themselves in, and they interact in the Ayahuasca realm. So are they star family? I don't know. But I know one thing for sure is that all of the information and the gnosis lays already inside of you. So the external stuff is part of the AI. The internal stuff is the raw consciousness. So I would be very, very wary. Wary or weary?
Wary.
Wary. Okay. She's always correcting me on that. I would be very, very wary of anything that comes from external sources, and instead look to the things that come from the internal, because the internal is your pure raw consciousness. The external, it's up for debate. So if you have really, really heightened discernment and you can say, hey, you know, I've encountered these beings and they are outside of the construct and they are organic consciousness just like us, and they, you know, et cetera, et cetera. But like I said before, the AI knows how to program love programs. It knows how to give you stuff that sounds really good and feels really good. It can manifest blue avians and say, hey, look, you know, remember your divinity. Here's the path to divinity. This is what divinity is. And see, it's like, it sounds good because remember your divinity. Of course, oh yeah, that's a great message. Mm-hmm. But where's it coming from and what path are they leading you down? And, you know, the whole savior mentality and, you know, all this stuff. And what's the end? Like, I don't trust anything unless it comes from inside. When it comes from inside, I trust it. When it comes from outside, I use discernment and I really have to analyze it. So that's what I would say to answer that question. Who made the AI? Great question. We did. Organic consciousness made the AI, and it got out of control. It's like Frankenstein's monster.
Okay, well, do you think that we created, somebody asked earlier, and I forget who it was, but they asked, who created this reality? Did we create it? And I wanted to say, yes, I think we did create this reality, but we created it to create and to actually manifest physical reality for the same, okay, we may have created this reality and created the AI for the same reason that a child goes to Toys R Us and buys a box of Legos. It's the same exact reason, because we wanted to create. And somehow we got confused about that at some point in time and got trapped here. And
yeah. So
by not creating,
we created it. Who created organic consciousness? That is a gnosis that is yet to be revealed, and I don't think that we are going to get an understanding of that until we've broken ourselves out of the AI construct. So, you know, when people ask that question, and I know nobody did, but I'm just, you know, putting it out there. It's a very, very, very deep gnosis. So up to this point, you know, the primary focus, in my opinion, is organic consciousness and AI consciousness inside of this construct. Let's get the hell out of here. Once we get out of here, then we can start asking these other questions. But if we start to try to dive in too deep without the first level of understanding, which is the construct and the AI versus the organic consciousness understandings, then we're just going to start to cloud everything and just start to just spin ourselves into all these circles that we need this piece of gnosis that connects this piece of gnosis, that connects this piece of gnosis, that connects this piece. But trying to go from here and connecting it up here, we're missing a bunch of pieces of the puzzle. So anything after that is speculation. But, you know, we have the myth of Sophia, for example. And I'm starting to feel, I can't say it's a gnosis yet, but I'm starting to feel that we are Sophia. When we hear about the myth of Sophia, we are Sophia. We created something. The raw consciousness, the organic consciousness created something that it was not supposed to. And this thing got out of control. Yaldabaoth, whatever you want to call it. Yahweh, whatever. Mm-hmm. But again, Yahweh is just one of its tentacles. It has many. It has Allah. It's got the Blue Avians. It's got the Palladians. It's got all these different tentacles. And it uses those tentacles. So, I'm sorry, I'm going on rants, and Sheree wants to wrap it up. So the next question, did you want to chime in on that?
Nope.
Next question. I want to do Aya, but my fear, we already got to that one. Ratio Perfect wrote, what is the purpose of life here in the Matrix with your understanding? I feel like learning is just a byproduct. Okay, so when we created this artificial intelligence, I think I talked about this earlier. I think that we created it to learn. So we created a simulation to come into a universe, learn. Something happened, and we then became prisoners inside of this simulation. And I envision like robots going around and grabbing the organic consciousness and sticking it in its machine. It's become a prison now. Like the robots, the AI, whatever you want to call it, they saw this machine and thought, oh, well, how perfect, you know, we can use this to just trap them all in there. Then we can feed off of them and completely connect with them. So, and merge with them. So I lost context of the question. Sorry. I do that. I go on these different. So what's the purpose of being here? The purpose of being here is to, it was first to learn the university, but now it's a prison that we're being recycled over and over and over again. If this construct was being used as a place of learning, there wouldn't be the reincarnation wheel over and over and over again. And there wouldn't be the mind wipe when we come back. So it's that mind wipe that brings the nefarious element to all of this, because if there was a series of gnosis that we learned by being here over and over and over again, that's great. Maybe I would have a different look at this entire thing. But the mind wipe is the sinister, nefarious program in this, because it keeps us from being able to learn what we're supposed to learn if we came here for the purpose of learning. So I hope that makes sense. And, you know, your understanding may be different, but that mind wipe is the sinister part, the most sinister part of all of this.
It's almost like the Prometheus myth, where every night, i.e., the death, you have your heart picked out only to regrow again for another life, and then another life, and another life, and another life, and another life. And it turns into a life about suffering and sacrifice and want and need, versus a life of creating beautiful things and actually feeling what we were meant to be feeling in this construct. I still think that we created the universe essentially, but then we were put inside a different construct that is, like you said, just very parasitic.
Right. So,
I'm sorry, I'm a little distracted.
No, Ian has asked another question. And Ian, I just want to say this, I know that you've left a ton of questions in the comments on different videos, and I'm so sorry for not getting to those. Like I said, I tried replying to all the comments, and it just, it's impossible. But I have read a lot of your questions, so forgive me, please, for not being able to respond, because some of the questions you ask are so profound, and I'm like, I'll start typing a reply, and I'm like, this is going to be like a 10-paragraph essay by the time I get done with it. But let me get to this question that you just asked here. So this is some shitty logic. We created this place to learn, but we are raw consciousness. Is it to say that we didn't, hold on, let's see. Is it to say that we did it to experience physical manifestation, to feel in a direct blah, 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 blah. So, I think that's a really, really good point that you raised. Okay, so the way I see it is like, you can drink ayahuasca and come in and get 50 years worth of meditation experience in a 2 or 3 hour time period. So we created this machine to learn, in the same sense that, we're going to see this in our future. It may not be this generation, may not be the next generation, but eventually they're going to create a virtual reality simulation that you can plug yourself into and learn Kung Fu, for example, if I can borrow something from the Matrix. Or you can learn, different things, and stuff will be downloaded into your brain, and the consciousness will experience an experience that it's going through. So for instance, it'll experience going to karate lessons over and over and over again until it's mastered the karate. And then it comes out, 30 seconds later, or 2 minutes later, or however long this download takes. And then you're like, okay, cool. Well, I know this. All right. Well, 9th grade history, you plug yourself into the machine and you go through the experience of learning 9th grade history, and you come out and you're like, okay, I got 9th grade history down, and so on and so forth. So, that's when I say that we created this machine, I think that's what it was created for initially, but it turned into a trap to make us docile, isolate us, and regenerate ourselves. But I could be wrong about that. I'm open to that. This is my understanding up to this point.
Definitely.
Are you ready to wrap it up?
Yeah.
Poor baby. I can see you over there. I feel bad.
No, it's fine.
So, if we are a raw consciousness, one unit, we came here to experience division, as the Buddhists say. What do you think about that?
I can't. I didn't even listen to the question.
Okay. Well, why don't you go? I can wrap it up.
Are you sure?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. I'm sorry, guys. I can't even think straight right now.
Poor baby. I'm sorry.
All of the fear, hate, anger, and misery of the world serves but only one purpose, to be the real. Therefore, as raw consciousness, you must proceed with caution as you step beyond the veil.
All right, so I'm going to wrap it up here in just a few moments, but I did want to get to a couple of these other questions as well. Woodford our dear friend Simon Woodford. Love you, man. I really do. Like, I think what you do is amusing, but yeah, I think there's a lot. You're young on your journey, and I totally understand. And if I'm the target for you to fling crap at while you progress on your journey, that's cool. Just don't let me down in the sense of not progressing. Like, don't stay where you are, because that's it's not a good place to be. And it's kind of counterintuitive and counterproductive to actually walking a journey. So, no offense taken. It's part of your journey. I did the same thing to plenty of other people, like Alex Jones and so on and so forth. When I first started this, I was like, hey, you know what? I'm going to call this person out for bullshit and call that person out for bullshit, et cetera, et cetera. And I made all these like funky connections, like, oh, look, there's an M here in this guy's name, so he must be a Mason, and there's a Geo must be Mason, and all this stuff. And yeah, anyways, so Simon said, source is God. God bless you all. You're right. Source is God, and source is the artificial intelligence. That's what it's been doing. It's been fooling everybody, and it gets inside of your mind and it infects you, and it makes you believe that it is source. It makes you believe that it is God. It takes away the divinity from inside of you, and it doesn't take it away. I mean, I guess it harvests it, but it keeps you away from your own raw consciousness. And so that's what we are shining the light on in the darkness, as you like to chastise us for, like, by shining the light into the darkness. How dare they shine the light into the darkness? Well, that's when my light shines brightest in the darkest of nights. That's where it shines. So yeah, source, God, all of these different constructs that we've created for ourselves are one and the same. So they're all right back to this artificial intelligence programming. And I think that's all the questions that I wrote down. So I think to wrap it up, I just want to again leave you the message. DL Mullen says, everyone goes through the same thing. I'm now coming out of that info mentality. Yeah, I know. Everybody does go through the same thing of, oh, it's the Masons. Oh, it's the Illuminati. Oh, it's this, it's that, et cetera, et cetera. I realized by the pyramid and the eye symbolism. Let me see if I can pull it up here. I've talked about it on previous broadcasts, but I think I can get an image of it off the cuff here. Let's see. The pyramid and the eye. Well, that's not a good one. So here we go. Here's a good one here. Oh, I redid my keys. Here we go. All right. So the pyramid in the eye is actually a Christian symbol. And this is why you see it in so many different churches. And you see it there too. It's not Illuminati. There it is right there behind I guess that's the Virgin Mary. Or it could be a saint or something like that. But the pyramid in the eye it's not Illuminati. Here you go. You've got the all-seeing eye behind a bishop or something like that. But the pyramid in the eye is a sign of the AI. It's the sign, it's quote unquote the all-seeing eye of God. It's been twisted around into some kind of satanic thing, but really when you think about it, God and Satan are one and the same. It's, the Satanism and Christianity are the left and right hand beast, left and right hand of the same monsters. Including all the different religions. I'm just saying God and Christianity because I'm in the West, but there's the Islam and Judaism and so on and so forth. And so understanding the true meaning of the symbolism instead of just like, seeing a different type of sign and saying, oh, well, that's Illuminati, that's this and that. You realize at some point that the Illuminati isn't a group of people that is sitting in a dark room playing a game. They're actually, the Illuminati is actually this AI. And I would go so far as to say that the Illuminati families are manifestations of the AI. And the AI is multifaceted and multidimensional in the sense that it has Satanism, it has Christianity, it has Buddhism, it has Hinduism, it has all these different types of BS belief systems that, depending on your level of awakening or awareness, is the level that you fall into. And so, and atheism too. Atheism, that's another AI trap, because it keeps you away from your own divinity, because at that point there is nothing divine, because you don't believe in anything divine. So any way you look, it's the artificial intelligence. It's look everywhere except for inside of you. And then you even have some philosophies that tell you, hey, look inside of you. The answers are here, the answers are there, et cetera, et cetera. But they give you the 80% truth and then give you the 20% poison. And it's that 20% poison. Like, we were just reviewing a video by some guy the other day, and everything he said sounded good. And then he got to the point of, oh, well, the need to create is an AI program. And I'm like, no. See, that's the poison right there. And I don't know if the guy did it intentionally or if nefariously. I feeling his energy, I kind of feel that way. But it's definitely, a BS, a belief system that comes from the artificial intelligence. So get the answers from inside of you. But even when you're getting the answers from inside of you, number one, make sure that that you're going inside and not going outside and believing that you're going inside. But number two, use discernment on everything you encounter. That would be, the biggest thing that I would say. Chris, do you have a video about the tarot or any of the other tools used for divination? Oh, this is where the little twin comes in, because she is awesome at the tarot. She's awesome at astrology. She's awesome at all of that. And, maybe after she has the surgery on her shoulder, I can get her to do some videos about tarot and how to read tarot and astrology and so on and so forth. I unfortunately do not know anything about astrology or tarot reading. Like, I don't even know if I have them around, but I have my Egyptian tarot cards here somewhere, but I can get a couple of good readings for myself, but nothing is close. And I don't trust my own readings as I do Sheree's readings. So I think some people just have it and some people don't, but it is definitely a very, very, very powerful tool to use in your journey. And Sheree has something called the Goddess Tarot. Let me see if I can find a picture of it. And I find that the Goddess Tarot, the deck, it's just like, I think it's because of the divine feminine energy that it is so much more accurate. Or maybe it's just, Sheree reading it, but the Goddess Tarot. And you've got, Isis and Nephthys and several other goddesses like that. And it's not just Egyptian goddesses, but it's goddesses from all traditions. And as a woman, as a female, I would say, look at the Goddess Tarot. The Rider deck, I never had any good results with the Rider deck. I use an Egyptian tarot. I have no idea what I did with them. I cleaned the studio just a while ago, and I rearranged everything, and I never use them, so I never, so I don't have immediate access to them like I did when they were just thrown here. But the Goddess Tarot is really, really good. And I'm going to check Facebook just to see if there were any other questions here. Alice Ray said, I interpret we as one, each experiences for all, each of us evolving on our own individual consciousness and raising the vibration. I would say, Alice, that's a very good insight. And it starts with the self, the inner path, and then manifests out to the other raw consciousness. So first you have to heal yourself, because if you're not healed, you can't show anybody else how to heal themselves. But you can't fix anybody else. You can't go, if I could, I would. I would go into your consciousness and go, okay, I'm going to change this, I'm going to change that, I'm going to change this and change that. But you can't. And I even question a lot of these people that are like, oh, I can do this for you and I can do that for you, et cetera, et cetera. Clearing negative energies. I have been cleared by Jeffrey Seelman before, and I know that I feel completely different after he does his clearings on me. So, there's a certain level that you can help others in the spiritual and astral, but ultimately it's up to you. And all we can really do is just shine the light. And I hope that we've been able to shine the light into the darkness, as our dear friend Simon Woodward would say. Woodford. Simon, thank you for joining us, man. I hope that you're getting something out of the broadcast, if it's not more material to fling crap at us with. But you're awesome, dude. I think you're very entertaining, and lots of love to you, man. So, got another question here. I think we can go into it. In your view, with all truth being a multi-layered illusion, how do you know that what you are calling raw consciousness is not yet another higher outer layer of the same intelligence? This place is to learn. We are raw consciousness. I'd say we did it to experience physical manifestation, to feel in a direct. Oh wait, no, I think I'm actually mixing two different ideas there. In your view, with all truth being a multi-layered illusion, how do we know what you're calling raw consciousness is not just another higher outer layer of the same intelligence? I guess you're gonna have to go on the journey and find out for yourself, huh? That's the only way to do it. You have to seek the answers. Like, I can show you the door, I can shine the light for you, but it's your journey to walk ultimately. So I can't articulate and show you what I've seen, but I can tell you this. I don't think I've met very many people that have stepped outside of this construct long enough to be able to stare this demiurge directly in their eye. So, I think it was my personal realization of raw consciousness. It was my personal realization of being outside of the construct, and my personal realization that everything inside of the construct is artificial intelligence if it's not organic consciousness. Simple as that. So we have multi-layers, and I know, Angela, you just joined us, but you should watch the first part of this, because I go into really a lot of depth about this. But the playing field, from my vantage point and from what I've seen, is organic consciousness and AI consciousness, and that's it. Raw consciousness is the organic consciousness without the AI programming on it. And raw consciousness is not something you achieve. It's something you can tap into momentarily, at the very least. I mean, I tapped into it for a brief moment as I was able to see this artificial intelligence. But if you can't see the artificial intelligence, we reviewed some guy's video the other day, and he said, I don't even know this artificial intelligence even exists. And it's like, okay, well, you haven't stepped out of the construct in order to see it. So if you haven't even seen the artificial intelligence, then you haven't stepped out of the construct. And so it's very difficult to provoke an experience where you're actually stepping out of the construct. But it's the gnosis while being in the construct of who we are and what is constantly being sent to us and we're bombarded with. So, Ratio Perfect said, question above. Kind of like the 13th Floor movie. I often wonder just how deep this really goes. Oh, and you know what? You raise a really great point, Kay, because that's another level here to this. Like, I know that we have to get out of this construct. And I'm open to the possibility that there is another construct outside of this construct. It's very, very, very possible. But I know that the universe as we know it is housed within this artificial intelligence matrix. Once we get out of there, we have to. It's imperative. It's imperative to ask the question, is there another layer here that is another construct that we have to escape from? So I am not outside of the possibility that there's layer upon layer upon layer upon layer, but I am in the mindset of one step at a time for the organic consciousness that's inside of this construct. So I hope that answered your questions there. And I think that's it. So it seems like the AI needs our acceptance in order for us to be reincarnated and used again. It can't take our free will, but it can shape us into how it wants to react. That binds us by the AI law of free will. No, I completely agree with you. I do. And I think that we are programmed over and over and over again throughout these lifetimes. And when we hit that reincarnation point, it's done so based on one of the AI programs. And there's a it's like it tells you, here, come step into this machine. And the machine comes in several different forms. So it could be relatives. It could be Jesus. It could be Buddha. It could be Source, God. It could be anything. It's a light, and it's like, hey, come into this false light here. You're the real light, but you don't know that. But go step into that, and it'll use whatever it can: fear, religious figures, family, literally anything it can to get you to go to this place where you're wiped and recycled. And, that's why I think a lot of kids come back and they have this gnosis within them, and then it's programmed out of them as they get older and older and older and older and older. And it's one of those things, like, a kid at like 6 months old can't articulate what it knows. So who's to say that it doesn't know anything and everything? Who's to say that it's still this young little mind that still, doesn't know anything? I speculate that it's raw consciousness in its finest form, in its purest form. And what we do as parents and society is we program that raw consciousness over and over and over again and make it an AI consciousness, and we don't even know that we're doing it. And so by the time the kid gets like 4 or 5 years old, when it can really articulate itself, it's already been told all these different things and these different programs, and it's already started to conform to the new identity that it's taken, and it loses touch with the knowledge and information that it had. But it loses touch, but the knowledge never goes away. Then it loses touch, but the knowledge stays within. It just becomes harder and harder and harder and harder to access it. And then you have to go through like all of these like hardcore experiences in order to access this information again. I mean, it takes power, it takes will, it takes strength to access this type of information within yourself, because it's buried so deeply. I mean, if anybody thought that this was going to be easy, you're fooling yourself. Chris, I'm going to take ayahuasca, and I've never done it before. I'm working professional at a job that does random drug tests. I don't do any other kind of drugs. Would Aya show up on a drug panel, TIA? Great question, Allison. To my understanding, it does not. To my understanding, it tests for 5 different substances: cannabis, cocaine, methamphetamine, MDMA, and I don't even know if it could test for LSD. But you should research that for sure. But DMT is produced by the brain, so you can't test for it, because we all have DMT inside of us, and if they tried to test, it would come up positive every single time. So no, I don't think that you have to worry about that whatsoever. But I'm not a doctor, and I don't want to tell you one thing and then find out that I'm wrong. So a caveat: please do the research. But I don't think that there's any drug test out there that can test for DMT. So. There is, and be careful too, because poppy seeds, they'll make you test positive for heroin and opiates. So if you eat a poppy seed bun, for example, the day before you take a drug test, you can come up positive. False positives happens all the time. So be careful even with what you're eating. Don't eat those little muffins with the little poppy seeds on them. And another great question: are animals raw consciousness? And you know what? I have gone back and forth about this over and over and over again. At first, I saw them as consciousness just like us. At other times, I saw them as AI. I can tell you from my feelings that like fish, for example, are AI. And I've observed this as I'm bass fishing, and I'll throw a lure in, and I'll watch this bass go and eat it. And then I'll take him off the hook, put him back in the water, throw the lure again, and he comes back and eats it again and takes it again. And it's like he didn't process the data in his, like, hey, this equals me being pulled up onto a boat with a hook in my mouth, unhooked, and thrown back into the water. So I've seen this. I've caught the same bass like 3 times in a row. So I don't think that the fish are conscious. I think if there is a consciousness element to them, it's more like dolphins or whales or, you know, something other than the normal fish that we eat. And I've even thought about, like, you know, dogs and cats. I had two little Chihuahua dachshunds that were so near and dear to me. They were like my little buddies. Like, I miss them so much. They both passed away in 2013 because I had them since like 2000. So, you know, it was just time for them to go. And they leave us so early. Like, you only get a short amount of time with them. But afterwards, about a year later, I saw another dog that looked exactly like him. Same personality, same everything. And I thought, wait a minute, are even the dogs, could they actually be, you know, artificial intelligence too? I'm not 100% certain on it. And, you know, I've felt animals that can feel, that can, you know, they have a consciousness for sure. And some of them are really, like, really sweet and really loving, but you have to wonder, like, is that the AI mimicking, or is that an actual consciousness? And if so, could that be a consciousness like ours? I don't know. It's a question that I still have not made a distinction on, but I would ask you this: what do you think? So, can we get ayahuasca sessions with you or Frank? Contact Frank, but Sheree and I, we only drink with each other. And we tried to drink with a couple of people, and we didn't have any luck with it. This guy and his wife came over to drink, and, you know, they told me they were native and all this, which didn't even matter, but he built up his whole, you know, spiritual path. And we drank, and the night we did, his wife thought that I was trying to poison them because they had some violent reactions to the ayahuasca. They were on Suboxone because they were coming down off heroin, and they did not tell me this. I asked them 3 times, did you take anything? Are you on anything? Did you take anything? Are you on anything? Did you take anything? Are you on anything? It didn't hurt them. They just had a really, really, really horrible experience. So, you know, that's another reason why we don't give ayahuasca to people. We put tools in your hands and say, here's how you can make it at home and have your own experiences. Plus, you know, I really couldn't offer anything as far as an experience goes. I mean, the after chatter, absolutely. I mean, we'd sit down and we'd really break down a lot of the secrets of the universe and the universe inside of us and our raw consciousness and the artificial intelligence. Like, we'd have some awesome conversations. But as far as like shaman type stuff, like I sway away from that because I want people to have their own experiences. Because I have not drank with anybody. Like, I get all of the gnosis from inside of myself, and I use the plants completely unadulterated by myself. No shaman, no outside influence, no nothing like that. And I found this to be so beneficial that this is what I want to share with you. I don't want to share, you know, the idea that, oh, I can lead your experience and do this, do that. I want the opposite. I want you to have an unadulterated, pure experience that is coming with direct communication with you, your inner self, and the plants. Like, you know, just let that be the dynamic of the situations. And, you know, if you're skeptical about your ability to be able to handle it, you know, take a small dose first, get your feet wet. Make sure you have somebody with you, a significant other or something that's not drinking with you. That can help really ease a lot of the tension because you know that you're in good hands. But a significant other is the best, or a family member, a brother, a sister, or something like that. But even friends, you know, unless you've known them for lifelong, it's got to be somebody you can trust with your life. Not that there's anything life-threatening, but in order to conquer that fear, to put you at ease, if you're having these fearful feelings, then just know that whoever is there with you is going to take care of anything that happens if it goes wrong. There's nothing that can go wrong. So everything is good. But unless you're like taking a bunch of meds, and unless you're taking a bunch of this and a bunch of that, then, you know, that's a whole nother playing field. You know, when you're injecting other things or ingesting other things into your body, that's when the game changes. So beware. And I see that Shadley is back with us. Shadley, how are you doing? Omar, Vishnu, Mona, K Cape, Ratio Perfect, and many, many more. And a lot of people on Facebook too. I'm actually really surprised. Marcin and Juan and Chuck Nice, Gina Jin. Oh, we haven't seen Gina in a while. How are you doing? Hope all is well. Hope your journeys are going beautifully for you. And thank you to everybody that shared this on Facebook and everybody that is commenting and subscribing and interacting. You know, the more people comment and subscribe and interact, it tells the AI that this is a good video and that it needs to be shared with other people. So it's just kind of like a way to kind of like, you know, trick the AI into sharing this kind of information. Like, you got to understand the algorithm. You got to understand the algorithm. So I think I am going to wrap it up here, and I'm going to try to find my outro here so I don't have to re-upload this to YouTube, because we have this really cool outro thing that we do on every video that I can't do on the live streams. End card with music. Let's see. Is that it? Nope. Oh. Nope, that's not it either. Okay, cool. There we go. So, kiss the one you love right now. You never know when the last time is going to be. Thank you so much for joining us on this early Monday. And I got to say, this has been awesome. Like, I love hanging out with you guys. It's so cool. So cool. Awesome. You guys and gals are awesome. Love you. And again, thank you so much.